Good afternoon, everyone. We're calling the October 24th, 2024 Planning Board meeting to order. And can we have a roll call?
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finity.
Present.
The Secretary is present. Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present. Board
Member Fulham is not here, but we think she's coming. And new Board Member Glazer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And do we have some minutes to approve?
Yes, September 26th and October 10th, so we're up to date.
Great. Motion to accept the minutes. Motion by Dennis, second by George. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions. Our minutes are approved. Okay, we're going to close the afternoon session and go into our work session. And the first applicant is Anthony. You want to come up?
Yeah, it's the
Sabonic Training Center.
This was formerly the Long Island Automobile Collectors. This is a class project she's doing. So,
Okay.
The site was built with the building
Yes.
in accordance with the site plan. I believe the applicant is here today because whatever use was approved previously, that's not what they're proposing. And they are proposing what I believe is a indoor firearms training center in that building. They wanted to have a work session with the planning board to
so
see
just
how you
come
want
on
to
up.
proceed with processing an
This is
application.
the North Side?
The north.
Okay.
Yep.
There are some chairs. Yeah, okay, there you are. And just identify yourselves for the record, please.
Hi, Roy Wines.
Roy Wan, you look familiar.
Everyone knows me as Buddy. I've grown up my whole life out here as Buddy. So.
And
David Kirst from Matthews Kirst Cooley and Shoro.
David, you look familiar too.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna hand these out to everybody so they can, as like a reference.
Sure.
So normally when you hear firearms training center, you think the word gun range, all of that, but that's not what this is. This is a
Christine. Anthony, give one to Christine.
this is an education facility that we're going to be used for training, not what you would normally expect to hear, like the Mason Gun Club or the North Sea Gun Club or things like that. This will actually have enrollment of students. This will be classroom sessions. This will be training those who are already licensed gun owners in proper firearms safety. In addition, it will be for security guards, local law enforcement, that type of use where there will always be a trainer on the range inside. So there'll be classroom sessions, there'll be training in the range. So it's not just you come in and you go shoot your guns and that type of scenario. So it's a very structured, secure facility that you have to be with the instructor that's on the line at all times. There are currently roughly 6,500 licensed gun owners in 5 townships, and that's just handguns. That's not including long gun owners. But there is currently nowhere for anybody to practice your safety of how to properly carry, use, if necessary, or just be safe with them. So that's the goal behind this, is to have a facility that somebody can go to and actually learn proper techniques.
Is it open to the general public?
It is not.
So you have to be certified.
Membership?
There's not a membership. It's, for lack of better terms, look at it as a student enrollment, similar to what you would do for a college or something like that. You have to
Like a
attend
semester
classes.
course or?
Yeah, you have to be part of the course. You have to be part of there's a curriculum. There are different ongoing classes that people can take. Currently, to be a carrier of a handgun, you have to take a 16-hour class, plus you have to have range time in order to obtain that, and then to have that renewed going forward every 3 or 5 years. I forget, they were playing the timeline on it. So these classes are happening in places, but there's not proper range time, because what they consider appropriate for the range time is not what we would be doing. We'd actually have them at a full range rather than what's considered a similar to a cap gun, where they shoot at a target that's not a real one.
So tell me what exists in the town now for this kind of, not for classes, but there's a police training facility.
It's
Yeah.
outdoors.
So
Outdoors.
there are 2 facilities. So that's actually the next component of this.
Mhm.
This is an environmental thing. So safety is the number one thing, but the next thing is environmental. Currently, there's a training facility near the Tuckahoe School for the village police,
Yeah,
which is an
North
outdoor
McGinn Street.
facility. And then most of the other agencies train in West Hampton and the Pine Barrens, where they've been doing it for, I can't even tell you how many years over there.
Counted.
So in those facilities, they
Right.
expend rounds, the lead goes into the ground, and it just kind of stays there. Our facility, everything will be captured. It's a fully encapsulated facility. Everything's captured, recycled, the grass is captured, recycled. So it's a huge environmental impact savings for the area. We have spoken with the village police. They are very interested in this. They're not interested in giving up what they have, but it would be a drastic reduction, because there are certain things that you can't do in a confined space that they can do in a more open space like that. But there are opportunities for many of these agencies to be able to come at various hours, working with their officers' shifts, to be able to come and use this facility. We'll also provide scenarios in here, because again, it's a fully encapsulated facility, that you don't have the worry of a round going off. Look at what Maidstone is currently fighting.
Yeah.
You know, they've been closed for 2 years out there because it hasn't been proven yet, but there's allegations that rounds left there and struck somebody's house. Can't happen here. We're a building within the building. We will not be changing the exterior of this building in any way. We'll actually be building a building within it that'll be concrete, steel, armor plating, and then this ballistic rubber. I brought a piece just so you can see. It's quite heavy.
So that's going to be lining all the sides and roof and everything else?
Yes.
Tell us
So
about-
this is a ballistic rubber that will accept a round into it, but also is sound deadening. So it absorbs the sound of the muzzle blast, which if anybody in the middle of the summer has listened to the police over at Tuckahoe, you can hear it everywhere within Southampton town when they're shooting.
What about use?
So I was just about to raise the question, do we have something from the chief building inspector that classifies this as a permitted use? Was that something that we
So
put
that-
in, or we do have something?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
deemed it to be an educational use, which would conform with.
Permitted use. So the chief building inspector did.
As far as
so it's not special
Occupancy.
exception.
It's not special exception.
so as far as occupancy, there are 18 lanes. The maximum class size is 18 within the class. There will be 3 to 4, depending on how many people are in the building. Staff members, so a receptionist, 2 educators, maybe a 4th person at some point. So if you have 18 in the class, those 18 people are going to go to the range. So you wouldn't have anybody at the range and at the class at the same time. The facility would be available for students that, if there's a class going on and say there were 10 people in the class, they would be able to schedule one-on-one range time, which is where the second instructor now comes in.
Now, when you say range, you're not talking outdoors at all here, right?
Not at all. This is
Everything's in
totally
this
inside.
Quonset hut, right?
When you look at the building,
Mm-hmm.
it will look exactly as it sits today.
You mentioned something concrete, you're building another building inside the building?
Yes.
In the shape of, or rectangular? or-
Rectangular, so if you go to the drawings, the photos that I just sent you, the very first page, this is a view looking downrange. You can see the ballistic rubber that's on the walls and
Yeah.
on the ceilings, and then the silver lines are the tracks that take the target down the range. Second picture shows the targets. They'll be able to move. There'll be different things that can happen depending upon what the different police training is going to require. The the third, this is the trap. This sits at the end of the range. And this is what actually collects the round at the far end of the range.
What is this material?
This is all rubber.
This
You're
material right here.
saying?
It's granular at the end.
And what do? Rake it to scrape out the
There's
bullets?
a catch in the bottom of it that they'll, every so often, a company comes in, they clean it all out, and take it away.
It's this stuff ground up, so it's
Yeah.
porous and the lead will go.
The next page, this is just a picture of one of their ranges that is in production, so you can actually see the various pieces, the baffles that sit on the ceiling, and just the makeup of it. The next one showing the instructor and how they can operate downrange, and the student in one of the ranges. And then the last few pages here, the first one you see, this close-up of the police. This would be special for the police. The range is designed that they would be able to go past where the normal students would go and go down into the range to be able to perform their scenarios that they practice when they're doing their different training sessions. Police officers are required to get recertified on a regular basis, and this would be a facility that they'd be able to do that. Currently, when they go to, whether it's the Pine Barrens or they go to Tuckahoe, it's very weather dependent. It's seasonal because of the snow, rain, whatever have you. Daylight hours, this would give them some freedoms to work around the police shifts to be able to do it when they need to do it and schedule it.
So can you explain where's the building within this building?
That is the building within the existing building. What you're
So-
looking at would be built inside of the existing building.
So if you look at the current building, you have the 3 arches on the front,
Yeah.
and then you have the large warehouse on the back.
Right.
It would be within the large warehouse on the back.
And so you're lining the walls with this material?
So
Well, first
there
of
will
all,
be a
it's
concrete building built within the walls of the existing building, and
Concrete
steel,
block?
concrete block, then armor plating, and then this on top of that. So you have multiple layers of all of this. First of all, for sound. Between this and the armor plating is really all you need for the ballistics portion of it. The block is to support all of the structure. And then there's steel beams across the top of this inside, which would fit under the current ceiling. And then you have, again, armor plating and ballistic.
And the ground surface?
Current concrete,
Just concrete?
which is currently there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you representing a private entity or a municipal entity that's operating this?
We are a private entity.
Your private,
Yes.
for-profit entity?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And
Is
you
there a
showed,
We
classroom?
hope.
you showed pictures of another facility, so
This is another facility. The company that we're hiring to do the build out of this builds them all over the U.S. So this is just a facility that they've recently completed
Okay.
that they provided us pictures for reference for.
so
They're based out of Minnesota.
So where's the closest one to, is there any on Long Island or?
Nothing
In
like
five
this.
hours?
There's nothing like this anywhere on Long Island. It's really state of the art and something that has a lot of new technology involved. So we're kind of ahead of the curve here.
So are you a contract vendee for this building, or are you leasing it?
We're leasing it, and I have permission to speak on the owner's behalf.
You have owner's
I have
endorsement?
owner's endorsement here. We're leasing with the option to buy.
you're sort of gonna change it a lot.
What's that?
You're gonna change it a lot.
Yeah, by the time we put the investment in this, we do have a long-term
Long-term
interest
lease.
in it.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want copies of this.
You can hand us the plan.
He wasn't sure which way it was under Skip or Emil Jr., so he signed both.
Are
Is
the-
there a classroom component? I know you said you
Yes.
need 16 hours of class. Is there like a separate classroom in the building?
Yes,
or?
so right now this is designed to have 18 lanes, 10 of which will be 25 meters long, which is 75 feet, and then 15 meter. So in that jog out, there'll be a classroom, and then there'll be offices in what's currently the office space under the 3 arches up in the front and a reception area. because there's an area where you're gonna check in. Then there'll be lockout doors that you actually, if you've ever been to a jewelry store that has a double door you have to go through. So you go through a door, it locks, the next door opens. So anything related to the firing range is locked into an airtight area. You can't leave unless you're allowed to leave with the firearms.
Would there be any proposals to store guns and ammunition here for people, or they
So,
already bring their
so
own?
there'll be no retail. So we will not sell guns. We will not sell ammo, other than sales of ammo for the range. That way, we control the size of the munitions being used at the range. Anybody that buys ammunition must use it there. If they don't use it, they have the ability to rent a locker to keep it there. So nothing will leave from the range. They'll use their own firearms that they'll come with, and we have a whole procedure as to how you can come into the building, how you can use your firearm in the building, and all of that. So very, very detailed, that we've taken from quite a few other facilities that this particular company that we're talking to have shared with us, things that we know from ranges that we actually belong to make this the safest possible scenario that you could imagine.
So when you say firearms, you're really referring to just handguns. You're not talking about
It can
shotguns
be-
or rifles.
Shotguns are not normally done in a range
Mhm.
like this,
Long guns,
but
yeah.
long guns can be shot in here
So-
to some level.
Mhm.
We're doing that primarily
Yeah, yeah.
for the law enforcement, because
Mhm.
they are required to have long gun training, and that's where the 25 yard range comes
Greater
in. That's the
distance.
minimum requirement for them to qualify.
Okay.
They have certain qualification requirements. My partners, Jason Cordy and Pete Marangosi, Pete is here with me, are certified trainers. And if you have other information related to that, Pete could actually answer some of those for you.
You on this site, because it was developed with a building, an office building to be in front of it, or is that still happening? Do we know?
No,
No.
that's been abandoned. That was originally going to be North 6 Main Building.
Yep.
They've since sold the
We
business.
sold the business.
Yeah.
So no
So
building.
this is the approved, the last approved plan. So the building, that front building that says proposed, that's not going to be done. This large building and all the parking and everything that's already there is not going to change.
And
From the outside.
there's sufficient parking for this new.
Yeah, currently I think it's 25 or 27 parking spaces, and our
there's-
max
They
would
have
be
41 total provided on that site, is 41.
So we are going to max out around 22 or 23. If you have 18 in the
That's what I have written here. Yeah, 18 for the users plus, employees
staff.
and stuff like that. So 23 is what I see I have written.
Yep.
And
I
what
think you said
about,
there's 41 on there.
That's what it says was approved.
Okay.
Total spaces provided 41. Standard spaces 29, land bank 10, handicap 2.
Will there be any bathroom facilities?
They're currently in the building. There's 2 facilities already within the building. Actually, I think there's 3 in the building. There's one in the back also.
are they
and
on
that
the
wouldn't change.
are they on the upgraded systems?
Yes. This is all brand new, recently installed.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to remember the landscaping, because without that building in the front, we may be looking at additional landscaping to buffer this.
They actually went through that, and I think it was just inspected and approved. He's ready for CO, but prior to issuance of CO, we've now come in and
Well, I don't,
we're looking for the change.
right, so I'm just trying to, you don't have any photographs of the site as it is now?
I know it's heavily landscaped out at County Road 39. I don't know about fall, but, and then there's an open lawn space before you get to the building.
I don't know that it's heavily landscaped as a buffer. I mean, you see
Well,
this building.
Yeah,
Well, the intent was.
we're not changing anything with the site.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but
You'd have
this
to
other
say-
building was going to be right in front of it.
I think on the last, I think they were recently removed that.
Yeah, the intent was to keep a certain visibility of it because it sort of mirrored the old
The old museum.
That's
here.
a
design,
Versus
that
of course,
Quonset hut
massive
design
museum.
that's been there. It was almost a landmark, I remember. Long as I can
Yeah.
remember.
It's actually
So the
heavier
chief
than that.
building
I'm sure it
inspector
is.
then
Yeah.
erased the museum's specification, and now you're an educational
It's not a
institution.
It was storage
It was a
warehouse.
museum, that's how they
Oh, it
got
was,
The,
Yeah.
the change, the prior approval that this was built under was for storage and warehouse.
Yeah, office for the front, storage and warehouse.
Yeah.
Is what it's currently.
Porta potties.
They had the porta potties there.
Yeah, this facility was originally built to design the Norsec headquarters,
Correct.
but they were
Mhm.
subsequently acquired by a national waste carrier,
Correct.
who was their major headquarters off-site, so that's why it has to be repurposed to some
Correct.
degree.
Mhm.
It's no longer, so it makes
Okay.
a lot of sense.
In terms of traffic volume, you would have, sounds like 20, 24 people or whatever in and out at any one time. With classes, a couple a day, hourly, I'm just wondering how much traffic it's gonna generate.
It's usually a 2-day, 8-hour long class. It's a 16-hour class is the concealed carry class, which is what most people are taking. Then there are, so anybody who's out here, any security guard that you've ever seen, whether it's armed or unarmed, is required to take annual training. So that would be one of the classes offered. So this isn't just about firearm, this is also security guard training on top of that.
So they're not in and out, in and out.
They're not in and out. These classes last for an extended period of time, so it's not like they're coming in for an hour, leave, coming in, and back and forth. And it's usually scheduled 1, maybe 2 a day, depending upon which class it is. So it's people come in for it, stay there for the day, similar to an office type of scenario.
Okay.
It would actually have less traffic in and out than what it was previously approved for.
And I remember there was an exit through the rear property.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sandy
through,
Hollow.
onto Sandy Hollow. We still have an exit on 27?
No.
There you go.
No,
no-
everything's
no
coming
exit
in
to
and
exit.
in
Everything comes off
and
of
in and
Sandy
off
Hollow.
Sandy Hollow. Okay, good. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
We like that also.
Yeah.
Take your life in your hands on County Road 38.
Tell us. We just had a
Stick
training on
around.
traffic.
Yeah. Believe me, I know. I have an office up the road, so.
You
So,
know, the big question for the board today is the process, how you want to handle this. Given that, landscaping is largely in place there, buildings in place, parking is in place, drainage in place, you could do this as a site plan amendment or modification
Yeah.
to it. And then the question is, do you want to have a public hearing?
All the
I think we
proofs are internal though, right?
Everything's internal.
Nothing's being-
I was hoping to waive the public hearing because
Yeah.
there's nothing that's gonna affect the public. They're not gonna see it, they're not gonna hear it. they're
no,
not
it's
gonna-
true, but
It's-
for
but
me,
it's
if we
guts.
waive a public hearing and something happens, this board is responsible. So I certainly would push for a public hearing.
Even though it's fully encapsulated, there's nothing that can escape the building in any way.
I never say nothing ever anymore.
What's the public interest? I can't see it. We're not gonna.
Well,
get any-
you've got side businesses. You have what's right across the street? Is that
PC Richards.
PC Richards? It's a
It's
busy
suburban auto.
intersection. Yeah, I would say public hearing. I mean,
It's a change, it's also, I know you mentioned, it is a permitted use that's going in there, it's not specially permitted, so this is compliant. So-
But it's a little off the norm.
we've never had one of these applications.
I mean, obviously, you said none
So many.
exist on Long Island, so this is
People will be considered
we're
with guns
sort of
coming
creating
in.
a new
People will be
business.
A
considered
new
guns-
business, yeah.
People with guns coming
What's your
in.
time element here?
Tight.
Right.
We've been waiting for him to get the building to a certain point to be able to present this.
Right.
Well, when could we have a public hearing?
What's the soonest?
And we're in the holiday schedule now.
Probably early January would be probably the earliest.
I don't know, unless we can just squeeze it in.
Can you squeeze it in December?
Kristen, can we get
She's
it in
looking.
December? She's looking.
It's gonna be a quick one, that's for sure.
We have 4 on for December.
Well, let's put this on.
Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
gonna get any public comment. And then we can act right after,
Don't really
But
have
it-
many neighbors.
But it's part of,
Yeah, I
but
would
it's part
just,
of the
I would feel more
process.
comfortable.
Yeah.
'cause it's-
Understood.
So
We wanna do it right, that's why.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we could, after this, we could just schedule a public hearing.
Okay.
And do it for December, and then like the board said, absolutely, we could do our little bit of referrals or not. The fire marshal probably would probably wanna look at this, and engineering's done. So you're right, you could do the
Action.
decision this evening, or the next meeting, whatever, it is.
next meeting, yeah.
Very next meeting.
Okay,
What date do you have in
That
December?
timeframe,
December 12th, we have
That'd be
only
very
one
good.
meeting.
December.
That'd be great. All right,
We have
thank
only
you all
one
very
meeting.
much.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Appreciate it, appreciate your time.
Would this be a walk on then when we go to session?
yes.
can have these back.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
You can see that.
We have another work session. Well, we have another work session.
Anything in particular you want to go back for?
Just bring that.
Yeah.
Bring the rendering of the building, I mean, or at least bring some photographs of the building, because you know what it looks like, but the public
Kind of
doesn't.
floor plan.
One more.
For the public hearing, post interior.
What?
Oh, no, I mean showing
That's
the,
for what, yes,
the
you
road,
did.
the alleys. You must have
I
something.
can feel you.
We do. Yeah. That's just something we can post.
What's that?
Something we can post on the wall.
Sure.
Are you enjoying retirement?
20 years out.
Great,
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving into the second, work session, 70 and 80 Scuttle Hole Road LLC. Who is here, Prana, for this?
Yeah, doing good. How about you?
These are two
You look
lots that
familiar,
were
don't you? The guy
subdivided
from
in 2019,
Charlie-
and we're proposing a mixed use, building on both of the properties.
Welcome. We have your names for the record, please.
Hi everyone. Brant Ryder from Nelson Hill Voorhees on behalf of the applicants. I do have some of the
And
design. Oh,
Kristen
sorry.
Teodoro.
Teodora.
Teodoro.
Kristen Teodora.
Teodora, okay.
I'll get to.
Well,
her
let
photo.
Prana give us just an overview about this before we dig in, okay?
This is on the south end of Scuttle Hole Road, right beyond the corner where Montauk Highway and Scuttle Hole meet.
Mm-hmm.
It's two lots that were subdivided in 2019. The applicant's proposing mixed-use development on both parcels, one structure on both parcels, and then he removing the house and the shed.
This is
Um,
just south of the railroad tracks.
Yeah, it's right where the railroad is right there to the west. To
So
the-
is that one building on each parcel or one building on?
one building on each parcel, a 3,000 square foot footprint.
So both the triangular piece and the piece behind it,
That's right. The piece that has the house on it.
that's in addition, there are two parcels
There are
here?
two parcels to be
Okay,
developed
and
simultaneously.
and the size of these parcels, or?
The triangle is 20,000 square feet, and the other lot is 22,000, a little over 22,000 square feet, and they're in the ODU zoning district.
So are they undersized, or are they to code?
No, they're to go the minimum lot.
ODUs.
They're compliant.
It's OD, Office
Office
District.
They're proposing the two structures with a single shared access, and with a shared parking.
And you said
Um,
that there's a house on the one parcel now,
There
so
is,
that's going to be removed.
and the,
Can maybe you can hold that up so we can all see it, or is it up on the?
Brent brought in
Oh,
some
good.
renderings that are a little easier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The mixed uses office, workforce housing, and a day school, which I'll explain.
So it's an
Thank you.
article on this in the paper.
Yeah.
Are you ready for me?
I think so.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to look at this with us. We thought it was appropriate to start with the work session, of course. We have two parcels that are adjoining, that are part of a subdivision that was accomplished not too long ago. These uses that are being proposed, so let me back up a quick second. There is one single-family residence on the lot which is known as 70 Scuttle Hole Road. So that is the less triangular piece, it's more rectangular looking, the elongated property. The triangular piece is vacant. Again, they were part of a subdivision to create these two lots that was approved by this board, or the planning board, and the health department, so it is legally two single and separate lots. Our clients, when they purchased the property, for both properties. They were seeking to create uses that were conducive to their business and their staff. So they were looking for 2 separate office spaces and the possibility of putting as much of their staff on the property as well, so they can mix the use in a manner that would be appropriate for their business. When they started the process, they quickly learned that there was an organization that was in desperate need of space. So they quickly switched gears and said, we're okay with just one office space, occupying one building for office space, so that we can help out this organization that desperately needs space on the east end of Long Island. So what you see before you today are 2 parcels that are being developed in somewhat separate capacities, different uses, with a common access point. Again, our client is going to develop the project as one, both buildings together, with the common access point for efficiency and to control costs. So the elongated property, which is known as, which is 70 Scuttle Hole Road, will be developed as a landscape contractor's executive office space. So their administrative staff will utilize this space for operational uses only. There will be no special trade contractor uses within this site. Above, on the second floor of this building, they would like to install 1 workforce housing unit, which would meet the town's affordable housing criteria. In doing so, they will slightly exceed their density allowance from the health department's perspective. So we have been communicating with town officials, Dave Wilcox, about the possibility of working with the town to help us offset the need for the sanitary density to incorporate affordable housing on these properties and through the town's transfer development right credits. We are in the process of continuing those discussions with Mr. Wilcox, and he is actively looking for them. I've met with the health department. The health department is in agreement that it makes sense to do this here because this area desperately needs affordable housing. So that's the rectangular shaped parcel. On the triangular piece, this is where the switching of the gears in terms of development came into play. This building will be, again, a standalone building that will house the Hudson Helping Hands organization, which is a facility for the needs of autistic children and their family. This is a use that we have identified with the town chief building inspector as a permitted use under the SIC code. I'm trying to go off memory here. I think it's 829, which is it's considered a school, not elsewhere classified. Now, I want the board to understand that this is not a school in its traditional sense. This is a educational skill-based facility where the children and their families come for developing the life skills and family skills that they need to be able to thrive in our society. Kristen is here today because she is the organizer of this wonderful operation and can answer any questions about the facility and how it operates. But in speaking for her, I will tell you that this is a desperately needed facility on the east end. It meets the town zoning classifications. We are getting a formal interpretation from Chief Building Inspector Sean McDermott about that. So we are recognizing it as a permitted use. Now, on the second floor of this building, we would be also looking to put 2 workforce housing units, again, to help with the staffing needs of the landscape contractor company that is operating out of the other building on the
The landscape company
landscape.
is the owner of the properties.
They are an entity of the ownership,
Okay.
yes. So again, the idea is that we have a mixed-use facility in multiple capacities here in a perfectly positioned location in terms of a planning overall look. You know, when we look at the proper deciding of uses as planners, we try to think of, you know, traffic and parking and all of the things that go into it. And in this location where it abuts the railroad tracks on one side, you have a church operation across the street, you've got a, as you transition further south, you have more commercial uses, but as you transition north, you start to get into more residential uses. So again, this is a transitional zoning plan with a mixed use operation that has a significant dual purpose community need. We have workforce housing and we have a facility that does not exist currently on the east end of Long Island. And there are families that are driving hours to get the care that they need for themselves and their children. So we think that this is a really good use for this site. Now,
excuse me, your drawings show 70 Scuttle Hole, one apartment, and you did talk about 2 affordable housing apartments. Is that correct?
so 2 affordable housing will go on the 80 Scuttle floor,
Right.
on the second floor, and 1 will go on
One on the second.
on this on the
70.
70. Okay, yeah, sorry. There was some back and forth about that. They were trying to see if they could put two units on the rectangular piece, but they've learned that they do need more office space, so they're going to bring some of the office space up to the second floor and only have 1 workforce housing unit. It does also decrease the amount of transfer development rights that they will need to actually make those uses work.
What about the flow on the triangular piece?
So the flow in the triangular piece is actually double density, but the health department allows that with the transfer of development rights, which again, we're working with the town to utilize the town's transfer development rights, recognizing the park, giving back the workforce housing as the triggering need for the density. If you take away the workforce housing, that building stands alone and meets health department standards. We wouldn't need any transfer development rights.
Yeah, but now you're putting in 2 units, so.
Correct.
And I'm assuming they would just be IA systems, because you're not gonna be putting in some fancier septic system.
They are the IA systems that are currently recognized by the health department. Our sanitary engineer team has designed them to meet the current health department standards for IA systems.
So can I ask you a little bit about the school? How many students do you think you'll have there?
We work with families from Montauk to Queens. Basically, we have families that travel for the purposes that we provide. So I can't generally say how many families, but I know, give or take, right now we're working with about 50 families.
So just talk to us a little bit about how that functions.
So we would like to be a space where there's nowhere. I grew up out here, and my son was diagnosed now 9 years ago. And for those first 5 years, there was nowhere for us to go. And we want to provide that for families. Sorry. So we just want families to have a safe place where they can meet other families that are like ours, and gain information. You know, there's families in Montauk and Shelter that therapists can't even get to them because it's too far away. And if we can provide a space where the families can come, the therapists can come, and one of those is the perfect place. It so happens that pretty much everything we've done a lot of Green Thumb, we've done a lot of Corwitz. You know, growing up here, I just know people, so they were like, hey, come and do it here. And that's kind of how we've grown, where people that I know are like, do an event here. We can't go to Hanks. My child was being that way. And we just wanted a place where families could kind of create memories and have experience and engage, where they didn't feel like they were completely, you know, sweating and crying leaving to get to the car. So we really just want this space to be something that these families feel supported, they feel safe, they can access therapy. They can get, you know, a lot of the things, or the gym classes and OT and doing, you know, my son doesn't have after school programming. They don't have that in schools. So if we can provide that, that's something that we want to do for these families.
It's a great spot, you know, because Scuttle Hole, you can feed a lot of the back roads, especially Shelter. You're talking about Shelter Island,
Yeah.
Sag Harbor. You don't have to deal with the Montauk Highway. You can get, you know, use the back road network to get right in and even right out of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's a great location.
And it's safe, I mean, this is,
Well, that's our number one.
yeah,
Are you
you'll make
providing
it safe.
services now?
We do a lot. It's pretty much out. We do a lot of events. We do inclusive events, which invites the whole community. So we have a lot of typical families that come, which is lovely because they get to learn about our kids, you know. And we also do workshops in the summer at the Children's Museum. And we do a lot of Zoom sessions, but to have a space where families just know we want a cafe where they can learn to eat out and things like that, where there's just things we can't generally do, especially out here.
You know, even the
Are you a
church
nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay, you know
across
what
the
that,
street looks like they have some outdoor space you could almost utilize for like a field, a playing field. I don't know if you've been in touch with them. Eventually, it might pay to reach out to them.
Yeah.
You know.
it just has to be very safe
Where
space
was-
Yeah.
for this
Um,
population.
Is your staff that who will be taking care of your your clients or your children? Would they be based out here or?
It would
Typically,
be
what
out
do
here,
you
yes.
think?
A lot of the therapists, I mean, that's one of the issues that people in Montauk and Shelter Island and Sag Harbor, a lot of these therapists are based in agencies that are violent. So to fit these kids into their schedule, which is a working schedule, and they're driving to this house and that house, they can't fit in a drive out to Montauk, and they can't fit in. So we could then be a space where we're scheduling these therapists for 4 hours a day, and then these kids can rotate it. These
So
allows these
they're not
therapists to
full
come
time.
out.
The reason I ask is because I noticed that the 3 apartments proposed to be used by the landscaping staff, not for the not for the staff of your program.
Yeah.
And is that something you think that at some point that might change? That you might have somebody full time that may need a place to stay in one of those units rather than landscaping staff?
I would think that that's a possibility. You know, the idea is that the staff is for the company that was, you know, sponsoring the development of the buildings because they needed the place for their staff to stay. But if that opportunity opens up, I wouldn't see why that wouldn't actually benefit everybody. So yes.
No, I just want to put it out there because
Yep.
I don't want to limit yourself if
And
that's.
to be honest, if we could get more flow and get more second-story space, they would put more units there because we all know how desperately we need staff.
Yeah.
True,
housing.
but you know, this is a really tiny space. So in terms of your dreams, of what you want to do you think it's sufficient?
I do. I think we're based on what we've put together and the gym that's in the basement, and we can definitely make it something that small children can go to. And then there's also interchangeable furniture where we could have teens come and more have an adult space where, you know, it can definitely be utilized in multiple ways.
Well, I haven't looked, but we would certainly need interior. Do you have that here?
Yeah, so
All the interior layouts?
If you have a floor plan, if you want to turn the floor plan, we can go through that really quick.
First one's 80.
So,
So this
you're
is
looking
80?
for the plan that says HHH.
Where would it say that?
So on the page right before it.
These are not numbers, right?
So go to the next page. Yeah, Hudson Health.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
that's
this
the
is
building.
80.
This is the building. And you see it when you come in, it's an open space. This was laid out by the Marisol Architects team, who has an understanding in working with Hudson Helping Hands sort of very intimately how their space needs to be managed. And they feel that they have adequate space here for their needs right now and looking forward into the future. Now, that's not to say that in 5 years that this thing just doesn't, like, you know, to your point, doesn't blow up and they need a bigger space. But for right now, this has everything that they need and they can see that they need. So in the first floor, you have a lounge lobby area. On to the left is a sitting area, and further to the left is the classroom again, the labeling of classroom is not your traditional sense, from what I've been told. You're not having students coming in from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day. This is more on an as-needed basis when they have scheduled classes for certain activities. You have a few offices on the right-hand side with a bathroom, and then a small kitchen, and then an administrative office as well.
Is that going to be a commercial kitchen?
No, nope, just for staff.
So
It's the staff. The kitchen is not intended to provide food for the children.
Okay.
Is most of the children there after school, or do you envision this all day and the evening?
All day.
And evening, right?
So it's a daycare for children is what you envision currently.
No, it is a facility. If I compare it to anything, it's a mix between like a therapeutic facility where you take children for special therapies and a music class. Where I take my children to Riverhead to the music school. So it's somewhere in between those two things, where you're providing a special skill-based service for a special group of children that is has an educational component to it and meets that criteria in the town code. The health department also recognized that it's not a traditional school by the terminology school, but it is also not like a doctor's office or an office. It is somewhere in between, in my opinion, a specially skill-based educational facility.
Do you plan to offer like life skill type things, like programs within the space?
And just engaging, learning how to be out in a public space that's not your home or the park. It's a safe space, but you're also learning, your children are learning how to engage with others.
And this would be outside of regular school hours? I mean, do these kids go to school as well, or is this something
Well,
separate?
we'll be open to children that are younger as well, that would be able to come during the daytime.
So children who are not with the condition that you're talking about, you would open it up to other children?
No,
No.
but they're not in, children that are
Under
18
5.
months, they're not in a school per se, so they could come during the day.
Non-school age children.
So not
Toddlers.
younger than 5.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not a daycare.
Well,
It's not
I mean, I'm
somewhere- it's-
familiar with these types of, or maybe not this particular model, but I'm familiar with care for young children with autism. And, my experience, it's kind of a daycare program, usually, not judging it or good or bad. Was just wondering, is it for, special occasions, or is it for,
No, it
your
would
children
be like a
are there
safe
for the
space.
day?
If I may, Teresa Mason from the Planning Division. I have a child with special needs, and for kids that are not school age, often they are medically diagnosed, and they receive early intervention services through Suffolk County, and sometimes they'll have therapists that come into a school or a facility or go to property owners' homes. So that would be similar to this, where they would get specialized training similar to like a vocational school, but for children that are not school aged. So, that's how that works. Whereas once they're in school, they get services through the school, through IEPs and things like that nature. But usually they're similar to early intervention services that are offered through the county. But out here, it's hard to get the services because there's not a lot of places. But if you have an area, facility where you can congregate those therapists and then you can have children come, it would make it much easier.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Plus, you're also giving services to family members, I assume, teaching them skills.
Yes.
Right.
Support, how to
Take care of the children.
Well, Brent, the elevations really look good. We're gonna make our pitch, of course, for solar panels
Yep.
and a couple of charging stations.
So we can accommodate those
Good,
things.
good.
I do want to talk to you about some of the planning matters. If you feel like you're okay with your questions about the Hudson Helping Hands use.
I just have a question about the basement area.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
that's
do want to
all,
talk about that.
all to code. You've checked that all out?
So I don't even know how much Brenda knows about the basement area other than it's a sensory room for the children. And it would be, so if you look at the plans, actually look at the first plan, the color rendering.
Yeah.
There's a walkout area of the basement, so they would excavate out, and it would be a sunken courtyard. If you look at the north side of the building, there's
Oh, yeah, I
pattern
see. called the triangle there.
Right here.
Yeah.
There's a hatch pattern right here, so that's like a walkout courtyard. Again, to allow natural light in, and two, for the kids to be able to get out to the fresh air. And then, the question is whether or not there will be a staircase up, for safety reasons or not, but so the basement would be partially exposed to fresh air, but sunken, if that makes sense to you. And the ceiling heights would be higher to allow the children to be able to, again, exercise or be given therapeutic needs in a safe environment. So instead of having, say, like a standard 8 or 9 foot ceiling, they may need to go to 12 foot ceiling. So the kids have like a padded area to be able to just be kids, and again, in a controlled, safe space where the parents know that they're getting, the proper therapies that they need.
I'm sorry, so it's not a walkout.
It is a walkout.
That's a walkout.
This is a walkout right here, and that's a sunken courtyard.
And the area to the right of the sensory gym, is that just gonna be space that you may
That's
wanna
all
use in
just
the
storage.
future, or?
Storage
No,
mechanical.
that's all just storage. Again, that's something that gets into the health department in terms of your usable space. So we did that just very thoroughly. We had some helping hands. That's 600 square feet of space for those children to be able to be active in a controlled environment.
And the materials for the building, I see stucco
So it's stuck out, standing seam.
and aluminum roof.
Again, these are very conceptual. The design team, I asked them to do just enough to think about where their design minds were, but not get too costly in working these things up. We're all trying to work together to keep the costs down on this, again, because this is a use that we all recognize is desperately needed out here. My wife's a special ed teacher. This is close to my heart. I know it's close to almost all of the team members, if not all of them. It's close to them in some capacity. So we're here to ask you today, whether or not we're moving in the right direction. I do want to talk about a couple planning points, but once we hear from you and then we have the public work session hearing, we're ready to go full steam on this. Again, we've talked to the health department; they're on board so long as we can get transfer development rights. Dave Wilcox is working very actively with us to find those transfer development rights to get that moving with us. So once we get a positive nod, we want to go because they want to have shovels in the ground as soon as possible.
Okay, so I have a couple of parking questions.
Yes.
Prena, you can be part of this too. Are there sufficient parking spaces for the Hudson property?
There
I
almost
counted.
is. I think they're 4 spaces shy on number 70, which is the office. And then they're 1 space over at the basement.
They're combining the sites though, right?
Yeah, it's single access and the lots are combined. The board could waive the parking that's
Well,
required.
I
for
know there's
the
some sort of
units.
credit, and Claire probably knows,
I think
credit
it's more,
for
yeah, I was
shared.
talking to Claire about it, it's more municipal or public. So I can talk to her more about that.
Yeah.
But the board can waive the requirement for parking for the units if,
A shared parking arrangement here. I think what's really critical is safety.
Yeah.
You don't want kids being dropped off in the contractor's lot and then have to find their way over to the other building. I mean, it's a tricky situation, which would benefit if you're mindful of it now, which is what our job is, to really plan this out. I don't know, when I asked you how many people could be there, you mentioned as much as 50 families. I mean, that's not reasonable, right, for this. But do you have some sense of how many people might be there? And and who drives? Is it do the kids come in a little van? Do they come in family cars? What's the scenario?
Well, our plan and our intention is to basically, if you wanted to do anything in our space, the gym obviously can't hold a certain amount of kids. It would be a scheduled where any sort of therapy you get would be scheduled in time
Right.
like that. So it would never be,
Free for all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Basically every space it would be a scheduled thing with our families. So although we do work with a lot of families, it would all kind of be a controlled sort of put together a slot of time that you're going to be there, that your child gets this space with.
So the maximum number of people, the occupancy here, that's what I'm just trying to get a handle on. At any one
Well,
time,
we-
20 people?
We would work that with fire marshal as well. That's going to be
Yeah.
heavily regulated by them.
Yeah,
And the idea is, when we were vetting this with Hudson Helping Hands and the design team, there was a recognition that we are limited on parking. You know, somebody made the point about the church across the street. We have thought about that and
Yeah.
the opportunity to use that underutilized parking lot for possible overflow parking. You know, I've done this on projects in Bridgehampton in the past. If they're willing to lease us some spaces, we recognize the safety component. That is something that has been again
particularly for
weighing
this
heavily on me.
population, particularly.
You know, so the idea would be that would be like a very worst case scenario, and this facility is set up to manage a certain amount of families and children at one time. We do need to think about that number, and we can bring that to you at
Okay,
at
so
the next
I think we would want that, and you want a maximum safety parking issue here. I remember we had an application a few years back where there was like a daycare gym, but it was in a commercial facility, and they had to put ballards in for the parking so that none of these cars could, you know, be a runaway car and hit a building, and there were a whole bunch of safety issues that we took a look at. I don't know if you remember it, Dennis, but it was, you know, safety is your most important issue here.
And do you think most of the drop-off is going to be at 80, which is the main facility, 80 Scuttle Hall? Which
No,
is
I strongly believe that they'll pull into the facility at 80. Yes.
At 80.
The triangle.
the triangle piece, yep.
Yes, because that's where the building
That's
is.
where the main,
facility.
Again,
yeah.
to safety, for safety reasons and just for efficiency. The only reason that any cars would wander over into the other lot would probably be, as the shared parking agreements generally recognize, is at night. You know, when the rest of the staff for the landscape contractor office is not there.
But you might have the apartment people parking over here.
They will. You know, yeah, of course, the parking people need parking spaces as well. Again, the shared parking is not perfect, but the idea is that the people that are parking there are either employees of that building or they are out working for the, you know, at their job site, you know, for the day.
So this is a special trade contractor.
No, it's a landscape contractor administrative office. There's no
Oh.
special trade
There's no
contractor.
truck
use.
sort of.
No trucks,
Yeah.
no storage of plant material, none of that.
Not at all. They have a yard for that. They don't need that.
Gotcha.
They needed a place for their offices to have a, you know,
What
place to
company
hang
is this?
Hampton Yards.
It's
It's in the package.
Yeah.
So Hudson Helping, a lot of H's. Hudson Helping Hands is the facility for the
And-
family and children with autistic needs, and the Hampton Yards is the landscape contractor.
I've never heard of them.
Landscaper?
Yeah.
They're growing quickly, and as you can see, they need a space to, you know, put a sign out and.
So I will hear of them.
Yes, you will. Yeah. And they are very much a part of this project. They, again, they were excited about the opportunity to offer to, you know, have one of their lots be utilized by Hudson Helping Hands. So again, it's a real team effort here. And going back to the planning issues I wanted to talk to you about, one was the parking. We will be asking the board to recognize we will need some parking relief. And two is the transitional yards. We cannot meet the transitional yard, the traditional transitional
It's a
yard.
railroad track. It's along the railroad track.
It's a railroad
Yeah.
track, and if you've walked back there, guys, that railroad track is pretty gnarly. So, like, to put a transitional yard next to it would be like, you know, snow in the winter.
Not an issue.
So yeah, we would ask you if you could give us some concession on that to give as much parking as we can on the property.
It's great.
So those are the two.
I mean, nothing wrong with it. You ever have an event, I mean, Scuttle Road, the shoulder's pretty, you could, like if you had a graduation or a party or something, you know, you could conceivably park along Scuttle Hole. You're not gonna have unattended children running back and forth, I imagine. It's always gonna be adults, you know.
Well, that's the idea. This is a therapeutical
Yeah.
setting, so people will have hands-on with the children. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Either it's a family member or it's a
Or you're
therapist.
an
somebody-
aide or whatever.
And if you're having a special event like an open house,
Yeah.
this way you could try to utilize the parking of the church.
The church would be
Absolutely.
great, yeah.
I don't see why the church wouldn't be
If they
welcoming
really
that,
will.
especially if we're willing to lease the spaces from them. Whatever.
And would you put a fence around the perimeter?
I would imagine we probably want a
Yeah.
fence
Yes,
around,
fence.
even if it's a 4-foot fence and hidden vegetation.
A
But
fence.
so
Especially because they'll be using this yard and lawn for sort of play area or
I don't know that we talked about
It
them
still
using
has
the
to be
outside
fenced on the
space,
road
children
side.
using
Oh,
the
yeah.
outside space.
we haven't discussed it.
Yeah, I don't know that was ever part of the plan, but it might organically happen as children do, you know. But yeah, so like
And
I said,
the train whistle is going to be loud.
Yes.
So sound dampening on your north and
Yeah,
west
good
walls,
point.
I think, would be very
That's-
important.
Sound is an issue, right, for autistic children.
so these buildings are probably going to spare no expense. Just so that's great. You know, the team is actively fundraising for this facility. So I feel like, you know, with the architectural team, the property owners, and just everybody else involved in this project,
There's a
they're going to be
tree, man.
beautiful buildings. They're going to be developed with all of those things in mind. Like I said, my two biggest concerns were the transitional yard and the parking. And, you know, just recognize these are tight sites, so things like dumpsters, we're limited on where we can put them, but everything will be screened. Again, Landscape LaGuardia is actively involved in this project. We do have support from the neighbors, and we can make this site as beautiful as you can imagine.
Okay,
Do you
so
have a
what,
complete application?
I was just gonna ask Brenda what the next step is, because you wanted to have this
Oh,
on.
setting the
Public hearing.
Conference.
Mhm.
I tentatively, in the resolution, I was asking for December. I know you can't vote on it now because we're still in work session. But I was thinking December 12th. I know we just scheduled Anthony as the 5th
Yes.
on the 12th. So
Are you included on the, did Kristen include you on the 4th?
He might have been actually. You are. Oh, so that's still fine.
Yes, it will be, yeah, that's fine.
So it was included,
Yes.
okay, all right. So, we wanna close this work session and then put you on the agenda for number 17. You have this down as a site plan special exception, it's not special exception.
Well, the dwelling units are special exception OD.
Ah, for OD. Okay. Let's see, so Prenda will work with you, we'll close out of this work session, and we'll put it on for a public hearing December 12th. So I'm closing this out and reconvening the regular planning board session. So if we can go to item number 17, 70 and 80 Scuttle Hole Road LLC. Schedule a public, it's complete,
It is, yeah.
deem this complete and schedule a public hearing.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, how, 2, 4, 5,
Six.
6 in favor, and
One absent.
one absent. Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Thank you so
time. I
much.
really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Would you like to
Good.
take
You
these
can
back?
have all of
Yeah.
them.
Can we keep these handout?
You can definitely keep it.
All right.
Prena,
I do not like to keep paper.
And then give
number,
these back to you, you may
Prena,
need them for
we
another
have a
meeting.
conflict with
Thank
one
you
of
very
the people here in Prena, asked if number 12 could be taken. North Side Hill, section 2.
Okay.
So we're going to 12.
And I'd just like to acknowledge that board member Bowen has not
She's
arrived.
not
so
arrived.
she's-
David, you could move over.
Okay.
Going to number 12?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I believe it's number, yes.
Number 12, yes, I know you have to go. Yeah, yeah.
This is a covenant amendment, for 28 Deerwood Path, it's in the North Side Hill subdivision. In section 2, it's known as lot 32. The request is to allow for a 50% clearing as it's allowed in the APOD for this lot area. And the covenant amendments are more strict with a 30% clearing restriction, which, you know, I think were approved.
when it was approved,
Yeah.
when.
Yeah,
I mean,
And now it's
yeah,
50.
We've done a bunch of
That's
these.
3 months before the
Yeah.
pod came
Okay,
into
that's
effect.
not an
And
issue.
we've done it several times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole slew of
Yeah,
subdivisions.
we've
They
done
all
one
within that
already,
window,
about a
that,
dozen, yeah.
yeah, that early eighties.
I did go to the site just to visually check the survey. They're showing a 47.9 existing clearings. I just verified that visually and everything looks to be in good standing.
Okay, great.
Motion?
Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions. 6 in favor, 1 absent. Good luck. Yeah. All right, Prena, you're
Oh,
done.
good idea.
Yeah.
Then we'll go back to the regular sequencing. Teresa, do you want to do the town board referral?
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a referral received from the town board. We actually had received it back in August.
And I think we questioned.
Yes, so we had requested some additional language from ADA guidelines to incorporate, but it's back before us because the town board had some issues with the way that the resolution was worded for noticing of the public hearing. They wanted, instead of typographical error, it wasn't really a typographical error, it was a substitution of terms, so they just wanted to clarify that, so that's why it's back in front of us. This is essentially the same resolution that was previously reviewed by the board, and instead of typographical error, we had it say substitution of term in accordance with the new notice of public hearing, and it has all the other additional information you had requested with respect to ADA guidelines.
When was this,
When is the public hearing?
no, when was it originally
I
referred?
believe it was in August.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, I
We
was
had
gonna
the-
say,
have
I
no
know,
recollection of this.
Yeah, it was in August.
yeah, and I think we were concerned about the terms that were,
Yes, I believe it says intellectually disabled, that was the term that was being substituted for what was previously there, which is now considered inappropriate. But I think you had asked for additional language to be added, or recommended additional language to be added pursuant to ADA guidelines, which is still in the resolution.
So is this what we're,
Yes,
This
that's
is-
the
this is the-
resolution that is proposed before you.
you want to just read it, because it's a paragraph?
Yes, resolved that the planning board supports the town board resolution to amend the town code section 33010BA to facilitate a substitution of term in the table of use regulations as it relates to schools for the intellectually disabled, and suggests that the town board review current ADA guidelines on appropriate language to incorporate into the town code.
That's what you all wanted?
Yep.
Okay. Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, for 6 in favor, 1 absent. Teresa, you're next to with CVE, US, NY, West Hampton.
So,
Number 4.
alright, so this next application is for CVE West Hampton.
We're good.
We had actually reviewed this project as a referral from the Central Pine Barrens Commission. This is for
The sand mine?
The sand mine, a sand mine, yes. It's the installation of a 10 megawatt facility, solar
this is a good
facility
one.
in 2 phases, so 5 megawatts per phase at a former sand mine. It had come before us again as a referral from the the Central Pine Barrens Commission, because they had a conservation easement on the parcel, which would have prohibited the use of the site as an opportunity site for solar, because it is partially within the core preservation area. However, the
Pine
Pine Barrens Commission, ooh, that's a lot of P's.
A lot of commissions.
The Pine Barrens Commission has decided to amend their easement to allow for solar, subject to restoration upon removal of the solar facility. So this is a pre-submission conference. It's just setting it for, I believe we set it for December 12th. I had previously penciled it in. It would be one of the 5 that Chris.
This was the floating solar, right?
No,
No.
that's like 2 lots over.
Oh,
George, it's way up.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
that,
I was already
that long
looking at
The
skinny lot.
long, messy.
Ah, okay,
Right.
because
So
we're looking at the
that-
one.
So
I
that
got you.
lot is about 100 acres. It's the 2 lots there. It's
Mhm.
about 100 acres, and they would be coming off the private road here, and 25 acres on the south would be phase 1. 25 acres on the north would be phase 2, and then the rest of the parcel, particularly the woodlands along South Country Road, would be preserved as part of the open space.
Okay.
And this is an opportunity site.
Yes, it's
So,
technically considered an opportunity site pursuant to this.
okay, can we say any of that in here?
Well, I mean, it's just setting the pre-submission
Just sitting
conference.
here, okay. For December 12th?
Yes.
I'll move it.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, Rivian?
Alright. So, the Rivian team is coming up.
Welcome. We recognize you all.
Okay.
There should be,
Oh, it's okay.
Well, there's another chair, but it's got all the buttons.
it's got all this stuff.
We have
inside.
plans on the spare chair.
No, that's not our plans.
No, this is fine. They're gonna be doing the talking.
So, as you recall, we discussed this at the last meeting, and there was significant concern with respect to access to and from the parcel. Based on the board's feedback, Rivian had spoken with the property owner of both this lot and the vacant lot immediately to the west. And that property owner has given Rivian the authorization to enact access to the BMW site immediately to the west of both of those parcels. And they coincidentally have just recently come in as well for revision to their site plan, so it would be significantly easier to enact cross-access, and that should alleviate some of your concerns with respect to traffic at the site. So I am recommending adoption of the public hearing, adoption of the report, and scheduling a public hearing for January, I believe it's the 9th.
Well, let's have a conversation
Yeah.
first, okay? So we have to have a public hearing, at least Claire said to me, that if we trigger a cross-access now to be built, that has to have a public hearing.
Correct.
So is that a public hearing separate and apart from,
It would be part of this application process. So
okay,
they do have some minor items to work out with the town engineer. So the application can't be finalized and approved until that's been done. But in the intervening time, we can schedule and hold the public hearing for cross-access. Again, the lot to the west that has the BMW dealership, they already had a future cross-access easement agreement for the parcel.
for the vacant parcel?
For the vacant parcel. So this would just be putting them on notice that they're going to be required to open up that cross-access. And then they would have to enact the easement, which can be done subject to the conditional approval.
Do you have a sketch of the proposed, I know you sent an email.
I'm sorry, I forgot to print it out this
Are there
afternoon.
any sketches
Of the proposal.
of the proposed
That's-
revision?
that's-
with
Yes,
the
that's,
cross
oh,
access?
yes, my schedule was simple.
Oh, okay,
so-
fine.
There's access there.
Oh,
Going out,
this is it.
yeah,
Yeah.
linking
And
out.
coming
Coming
down.
out at Hampton Coffee.
No, Zach, you wanna run them through the?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Can you give us your name, please?
Yes, Zach Kim, K-A-M-M. from
K?
A-M-M, from Dynamic Engineering.
Okay,
Sure. So at the top of your page, the cross-access goes over the vacant parcel.
yep,
It's a 20-foot wide access. We were able to conceptually lay it out to avoid the 40-inch existing tree that I know is a concern. And then that would get access through the existing BMW parcel to the north and to the west,
And out their driveway.
and out their existing driveway.
It would also give them access to the east through the Audi parcel because the
Right.
BMW parcel already has cross-access enacted over the Audi parcel.
Come to this way.
Wait, now, explain,
the
say
right.
that
Yeah,
again?
could,
Yeah,
Okay, so you see here,
yeah,
right there, along the southerly property line of the BMW parcel, you see like 2 cars along the back property line, and then there's a driveway that goes to the Audi parcel. So there is already a cross access between BMW and Audi, so people can come into Rivian and then exit further east by going around and through Audi to go further east. And then can go through BMW to go west.
So our
So
major-
in essence, the only reason why you're gonna go onto this property is to enter onto the property.
right.
I mean, our major concern was eastbound traffic entering the site.
Right, and
You cannot enter this site from Montauk Highway if you're going eastbound. So the entry would be through BMW.
yes, they could do through
Yeah, through
BMW.
BMW.
but, because there is a turning lane, I was out there earlier today, you got the turning lane there. I mean, the stacking lane, so eastbound traffic, you just need to,
Is
you
it
have
like
to
a
establish some sort of,
deceleration lane?
yeah, I mean, it's middle lane, they actually unload cars in that
They
lane
do.
sometimes, you ever see the tractor trailer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they unlock cars. It's
But
not
we're
right.
But that's
gonna need
gonna
some
have-
sort of signage,
yeah, sign.
you know, Rivian,
Yeah,
the arrow,
An entrance sign right there.
what that?
You need an entrance sign.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
the people have to know, you know, that they enter Rivian here, and then we have to redesign this,
The entrance.
Entrance.
this other intersection with, what do they call the wedge?
the little divider bridge.
The divider
It's
wedge.
actually only a one-way, it's only in. not
It's
even
only
no
in.
end.
Yeah,
It's
only
only
it'll
in.
be in, you can enter from westbound traffic, but you can't enter from eastbound traffic. You want to discourage
I think
that.
what Dennis is saying, and maybe, is that you redesign the entrance so make it more aligned that you discourage people stacking on the eastbound Montauk to make it left turn in against the oncoming traffic. So you kind of make that.
Directed to the right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this Corey Chase, I'm with Dynamic Engineering as well. CHASE. Yeah, we could certainly look at channelizing that driveway. We understand what you're saying, so that it's
Yeah.
angular in form, so that someone actually couldn't make that.
Yeah, we
Right,
don't
we've done it before.
And you're gonna need internal signs
yeah.
among the parking lots.
Exit with arrows to.
Right,
And
exit,
that's similar to,
directing them to which way to go.
Yeah.
Which
It's
Hampton
conceptually, Zach tried to show that a little bit on the concept plan. So there will be some pavement markings in there, some arrows saying, you know, as you're going around the building in a counterclockwise manner, it'll be left turn only. There'll be do not enter signs and things like that, so people know that it is counterclockwise circulation around the building. And then we'll put some wayfinding signage on site that'll say, you know, eastbound Montauk Highway this way, you know,
Exit.
the bypass
Simple.
this way, so that we can orient customers to the
It
appropriate
would be
location.
safer, I really don't think the Audi site's gonna come into play, even eastbound traffic exiting should use this area, because in front of the Audi, you don't have that stacking lane, you know, whereas here, you have that middle lane where you could exit, queue in the middle lane and then wait for an opening.
And wait.
Yeah, it's
Go.
also the path of least resistance. too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you don't have to deal with Audi.
Yeah.
But you can.
But
You
you
can,
But
but
I think
if
that
you go
it-
east, you don't want to send eastbound traffic. to
I'd
the
rather
Audi.
come this way too and come out.
Yeah,
In all likelihood, I don't think anyone's going to go completely behind the Audi building all the way around.
Yeah.
Just to continue.
That's a tough
The path
left.
of least resistance is to just go around the BMW, say bypass,
Yeah.
just come back.
go out the way it came in.
Now, you're gonna build this cross access, right? And how do you envision it from an engineering standpoint? You're the engineer. Yeah,
Good question. So there is a little bit of grade change as you get closer to the BMW.
you mentioned that.
But the bulk majority of the rest of the site is pretty flat. So from an engineering standpoint, there's a couple of parking spaces that would have to get shifted out on the BMW parcel to allow for the access to come through. And there's one light pole, I believe, that would have to get relocated. But from an engineering standpoint, it's pretty straightforward. The low point on the vacant parcel, if you've been out there, is outside of our proposed area. So the site work would really be limited to the access area we're looking at.
And are the cars that you lease that property now to BMW still continuing that? It's going to be a lot with cars in it, or are you going to be using it for, say, another charging station down the road?
Well, we haven't determined that yet, but we don't have any plans to install more charging stations.
So,
Just one note of, one thing to make note of. their plans do show egress only over the cross access. However,
two ways.
they do have to provide both ways, but the truth of the matter is the only reason why you're gonna cross back over to Rivian is to go to Rivian and charge at Rivian. So even though the plan will have to show both ingress and egress,
Yes.
however, the likelihood of that actually occurring is very small, and it would be, for their benefit
Well,
anyway.
we're actually making that the ingress into the site for eastbound traffic,
Right.
so it has to be two-way
Right,
traffic.
it has to
be
uh,
two-way.
over that
The
cross
arrows
access.
have to.
It's really a terrific use of cross-access that we've been working on cross-access for what, 5 years?
For a long
quite a
time.
while.
So
Decades.
many properties.
Decades.
But this is really
2015.
a good example
We
of
have it
using it.
right
Yeah.
across the street, which is working out really well for those parcels.
Right, from the
four
diner
parcels
all the
over
way
there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
The diner and.
That's
But
right.
interestingly enough, there was a big traffic article in the local papers today, and the site that was photographed
Oh.
was this site.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
No, that's,
Oh,
It's on
any
27.
publicity is good publicity.
Pick up
I
a news,
saw one in
pick up a
Ontario
newspaper on your way
October
out.
2nd,
It's
that was, like, almost a
Well,
month ago.
it's a
On there.
potential,
Is
good
the
potential
cross-access-
site
was
for
Is
a
the
around
cross
about
roundabout.
access in perpetuity, so if something
Yeah.
happens to that site,
Yes,
BMW sells, you
It-
guarantee cross
Yes.
access?
yes, it's an easement.
It's an
Okay.
easement.
It stays with,
Okay.
stays
With
with
the
the
land.
property, not
Okay.
the owner.
So I thought about this site and looking at it from the road, and is there something that we can do to buffer it, to tree it, to make it not look like really an electric station,
Well, this charging is behind.
The charging is behind, and they do have a landscape plan, which provides some shrubbery in the front of the building. One of the things we didn't have an opportunity to talk about last week is they do have like an play area for people who are with children who are
That's right
rented
behind the
by-
building.
Right, behind the building, I would, because children often tend to run away, I would recommend that area be fenced or, heavily vegetated with, so that it is a
Fenced.
deterrent.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
ideally a fence,
Kids get through
you can make it attractive, maybe post and
Fenced.
rail with some yard guard, so it's a little bit more. of a
Yeah,
deterrent.
yard guard would do. Teresa, the other big issue here was what C of O are they gonna be?
It would still technically be automotive use.
Okay, so,
Yes.
but your team is representing, you're not gonna be selling, displaying, or using it as an automotive use. So, Christine,
Well,
can we place limitations? Are we, even though it would run counter to their C of O, could we incorporate that into our decision?
I'd have to work on it with the attorney, because they're allowed whatever their use is,
Yeah.
they're not supposed to, unless we're giving them, we're doing special exceptions, Sammy's here, so, in that case, yeah, we can work in conditions.
but they are
Right.
proposing an way of use of having vehicles there for test drives.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
and to your point, it would be so tailored to this specific use that any future expansion wouldn't be able to be accomplished without coming back to this board, because there's no inventory, so another dealer couldn't come here and all of a sudden park 30 cars for this.
Under
board.
C of O, they
And
could,
you're,
though,
well,
that's
no,
my
but you're
concern.
going, the special exception that they're gonna get is
Only
going
for
to
them.
be given because that's what you're.
Oh,
approved
okay.
So
because
you
of what
can
they
limit it to
presented
what we're
to you.
presenting,
Okay.
which would be the 2 demo drives. So there's gonna be 2 vehicles stored behind the building, as was discussed,
Well,
solely for the
fine.
demo drive. So unless somebody comes in with that exact same
Yeah,
proposal,
Right.
So that's important.
so that would address the special purpose, the
That's
special
what
criteria that
gets
you were
us
concerned about
Good.
future expansion.
Yeah.
We would work with council to
Yeah.
tailor.
I mean, if you leave, if this doesn't work out for you and you leave, what stands is an automotive use, and
So
so.
we have to, the special exception, compliance would have to specifically be
Mirror.
directed
To
what
this-
they
Mirror what they
presented,
have.
And the findings for that are gonna be the why, and that's what gives us more ability to tailor
Again,
Okay,
it's
their
so-
use.
no inventory, only 2 demo vehicles, those types of
Right.
restrictions work for Rivian, they likely wouldn't work for the standard traditional dealer, so I think that's the protection.
And no direct sales on site.
Right,
No sales on site, they do it online.
okay, I think we've worked
I
out,
think that's
we've worked
big
out,
issue.
thank you for,
Yeah, the big,
this is,
That works. I
gets
think-
us over the hump. and
Gets
ready
us
to
over
move
the
forward on it.
yeah,
One thing, I know you have a busy agenda, because they're the most important time of the year is getting open for the next season for summer. we know you're very busy, but would there be an opportunity to move this to a special meeting, I'm sorry, a public hearing prior to January?
There would not be time to do it prior to January. We already have several public hearings in November and December. We wouldn't meet the hearing notice requirements for the first meeting in November. Second meeting in November, we might be able to meet it, but I think we already have, 5 on that night?
No, I think that's December. I think November is, we don't have an evening meeting.
There's no evening
Because
meeting.
the
Oh, there's only
holidays.
one
Because of
evening, so you wouldn't meet
Couldn't
the
do it for
notice
November.
requirements for November. There's 5 on for December. For January, really the first. However, you do have your conditional approval for the installation of the charging station. So you can go file for your building permits for the installation of the charging station.
Sure.
So at least you can start that process. Because we
Yeah,
gave that to
We
you
can
several months ago.
accelerate, okay, we're limited with the public hearing, but on the other side of the public hearing, we can accelerate the timeline, is, provided there isn't a lot of public controversy, which I don't foresee
Which we
there
didn't
being.
really have the first
In other words,
time.
we can get it approved faster than normally would.
So is there an ability to concurrently submit for building permits of any kind, or we have to wait for the special exception to be
We have
granted
to-
via public hearing?
Yeah,
Correct.
we have to go through that process.
Of course.
Instead of doing is there any way we can get the resolution kind of granted at that January 9th meeting?
No. I guess the other question
So
is,
here's what my intention was, okay? Because I know you are pressed for time. My intention was to have the public hearing on January 9th, it's a 10-day comment period that puts you on track for January 23rd, resolution of conditional approval. Assuming that you get all of the engineer's comments addressed and all the other items. And there was no major
Now the
controversy.
easement, cross-access easement
It's
is.
a conditional of the
So
conditional of the
that's
approval.
4 months, you have 4 months
well,
to do
yeah,
your
I
work,
mean,
put the road in.
We
and-
just, at that
We've
point,
been in-
it's been 10 months.
yeah, so just,
But,
we
you know,
started the
site plan
process
take-
on March 28th, and we had our first incomplete sometime in May, and we had our special exception meeting granted in July. If I'm not mistaken, we have a timeline. And I understand that obviously we've been doing everything we can to meet the board's requests and, around safety and everything like that. But at the same time, this has extended well past what we would consider the 60 to 70 day timeframe for approvals. And we
Based on our-
continue to go through and
Not here.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, you met with us in March for a work session. You hadn't submitted your formal site plan.
correct. Yeah.
Generally speaking, a formal site plan, once you officially submit the application, takes, and you submitted that in May, and it takes about 10 months or longer. So you're pretty much on track for our standards for site plan.
You get
And
health
we-
department?
Huh?
Health department?
They do have health department pending because they are putting a new IA septic system in.
Yeah, so that has to be in place too.
Well,
Well,
they'll need that for the building permit.
For the
They don't
building
require
permit,
this.
we don't require it in the site plan, we
Right.
condition it at the building department, they need the building.
If they wanna build this, you wanna be open before the season.
Keep the building, the restrooms in the building would be important
Yeah.
for their
It's restrooms and then the charging, but you said
The charging's
we
moving.
could proceed with charging in the parking lot, but the interior permits would have to hold.
until it's
Correct.
January 23rd, the earliest.
Okay?
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad we
But
resolved
the
it.
cross-access seems to,
Yep.
Works,
this
it
works.
works.
Yeah.
Think
It
of
will-
you as signage.
it
now,
will be a
how you
model.
wanna set the signage, because your people. are not
But
gonna
also,
know.
the access, the entry, the westbound entry needs to be reconfigured to way that kind of
Yeah.
channelize it.
channelize it
Yeah.
and discourage people from making that left turn, so that's kind of thing.
And there's no opportunity for
Pick
December,
up
you said.
Pick up a paper in the lobby
Okay.
and
We
go
have
to
one
page
meeting in
9,
December.
Page 9.
and there's the
We have a
corner.
public hearing in December,
But only
we already
one
have
meeting.
5, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
One meeting.
only one meeting.
There's not a lot of cars there in that.
Interesting,
I did see one in October where
they
it was
didn't really
like,
talk about this side, it just happened to be a
Yeah, well,
picture
they
of
weren't talking
the
about
traffic
wow.
issues.
It's just that
It
the
just
traffic
shows that our
issue.
random- Let's
Because
make
it's
the
a-
worst site there.
Unfortunately, it's where, 3 lanes of traffic
You may be
end
able
up
to do
working
the
into
outdoor
one
share.
traffic,
Yeah, if you
one
could
lane
put the,
eastbound,
like, all the
and we have
landscaping
quite
up
a
front.
traffic problem out here.
So, do we have action on this?
Okay, so motion is to set a public, deem the
I know, you're looking.
deem the application complete and to schedule a public hearing for January 9th. Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for hanging in.
Ask
We
for it
also
can be
wanted to
posted
see
in case there's a cancellation, which is probably unlikely for December.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
Well,
thank
you know, your
you.
planning person, she'll know.
Thank you.
Anthony, you're up for Southampton Deep Blue Sea.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The report's coming down. This is a pre-submission conference report. The board remembers this property. This is on Tuckahoe Lane, the Ultra nightclub building. It's actually two properties. You have a building here, and then you have this other parcel with parking. This is Carvel on County Route 39. Just to give.
Wait a second.
Remember?
Yeah.
So Carvel over here, the nightclub building back here, this other parcel, and this is a condominium development on the other side. The zoning district line runs down the center of this property.
You confused me, Anthony, with the Carvel, because that's
I
the
know,
other.
I know. It seems to be, they're gonna be.
Two Carvels.
Yeah.
On these applications.
Carvel
this
and
is-
pot.
And this is our third pre-submission conference report. This is for a non-medical cannabis dispensary. So this is just the pre-submission conference report. Actually, we have two hearings tonight, as a matter of fact, on two other facilities. So,
I'm gonna have to start using.
well, I wasn't anticipating that actually. I mean, you basically could see the site there and site plans sort of coincides with that, the building and then the parking. So page one here goes through a description of the property. We're at 36,000 square feet of change.
They're using the building.
They're using the building. They're going to use the existing building. And it's roughly 4,000 square feet. When we get official building plans at the time, we'll confirm. I say that because you'll see in the report that the difference between 4,000 and 4,001 square feet is an unlisted action for the 4,001 and a type 2 action. So type 2 cuts off at 4,000. So we had a pre-submission conference on June 13th. It was continued on September 12th and then closed with a 30-day written comment period. The discussion was robust. Had comments from the concerned residents on the other side. I would say, as if I was going to make a general summation.
Fairfield, right?
Fairfield.
We should refer to it.
We
as
should,
that,
you're right.
yeah.
Their beef is with the nightclub.
The current
and
use.
the current use. Although they did have concerns about the proposed use, they're looking for the trade-off, right? That I was going to say if I was going to summarize it. So just to go through the public comments, they offer a conditional, I put that in quote, that's what it said, conditional support, as they prefer the what they believe would be a less intense and less intrusive use. They're recommending a traffic light there at the corner, but of course when we get to a formal, we have a traffic study, we'll start getting into that kind of stuff. So we'll certainly see. Compliance with all applicable New York State rules and regulations, including no on-site consumption. They were concerned about a cafe use as a second use, which they said would violate the Office of Cannabis Management because you can't produce non-cannabis foods in the same facility. Which, by the way, you'll see in the report, doesn't mean that you couldn't have a second use on a piece of property apart from and separate from a cannabis use. If you're in the highway business zone or the shopping center district, for example, where it is permitted, you will likely could be next to a pizza place or so. There's not a separation difference between food establishments. It's the type of foods you could serve and have in the retail. So you can't sell non-cannabis or prepare non-cannabis foods in a cannabis facility. So
But they could have a pizza shop.
I suppose if it was a separate and apart from the use, that would be something we would be able to consider, I believe.
Anthony, I have a quick question. This is highway business even though it's off the road?
Yeah, the highway business goes all the way down to the railroad tracks. As a matter of fact.
And that's Tuckahoe, that road is Tuckahoe Lane?
Tuckahoe Lane, yeah.
So the location of this is really on Tuckahoe Lane?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's not on 39. It is not. They are recommending limiting the hours from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. with no operations on Sundays. Just so you know, our special exception criteria specify, they have to be closed, I believe, at 9 p.m. It's under the state regulations. Say what
The
hours
state
are.
regulations preclude us some of that.
Conduct regular code enforcement inspections. Copies of a security plan should be made available to the public, and it will. We have to submit one with a formal application. Surveillance cameras, strict customer conduct policy, perhaps a security guard on site.
Is the security plan dictated by the state?
Yeah, there's a whole series of criteria that relates. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And refer to it.
The citizens on the other side would like the applicant to install security gates and perimeter fencing. I don't think this board can require it. They also requested a reimbursement of $20,000 to cover the security costs over the past 3 years. This board cannot do that. They're ensuring adequate lighting. That's fair enough for a safe environment. They don't want anything intruding onto their residential development. Perhaps no standing signage along Tuckahoe Lane. Again, we'll get into this when we get to traffic, because that's reasonable. People have been
Sure,
having,
people are using that as a
spilling
throughway.
over.
Yeah.
It's not fair. Soundproofing materials, noise control, perhaps a community liaison from the dispensary, monthly or quarterly meetings, to ensure that there's an open communication between the business and the residents, and impact reviews and assessments to ensure that everyone's on the up and up. So that was the recommendations of the public. You'll see as we get more of these applications and we get more articles in the paper about who's doing what, you'll see that there are more comments coming out of our pre-submission final report. So
Anthony's the applicant here?
yeah, here.
Okay.
They're behind me. So the first comment just identifies the sections of the code. You have the general special exception standards, 331.22, and the specific standards from 162.26, and they'll have to submit the appropriate special exception petitions. Number two, there's the special exception criteria that says it has to be a transition setback 100 feet from adjoining a residential parcel. This doesn't adjoin a residential parcel, it adjoins a residential zoning district. So I don't believe the standard applies. That being said, we don't interpret the code. So I'm just noting in here that they should get an interpretation from the chief building inspector that the standard is met. I'd just rather be safe. However, number three, regardless of the 100-foot setback, if they're not required to have that transition, they are required to have a 20-foot transition. That's required on any commercial property, on any road. So within that 20 feet, they can't have the parking, which they do show here. This would have to be realigned. You need the 20 feet. And to be fair again to the residents, let's get a buffer plan here. That's fair. Also, I don't know the answer to this. There's a private road. This is number 4. You talked about this, Dennis. Nice little cut through there. If it's designated, I'll send them to the chief building inspector because this happens all the time. Whether it's a paper road, not a formal road, the building department often just considers it a front yard no matter what. So
where is this road?
That's the south side between.
It's
how you get
Carvel.
Yeah, it's this thing right here.
Ah,
and it's shown as a road on our maps and everything.
Really?
So it's a private road.
Huh?
You
Really?
can go from the gas station
That's right.
around the back
And
the back
go
of
out
the
to
building,
Tuckahoe.
Yeah.
and go out to Tuckahoe.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's actually a great little thing there,
It's a
but
good
I don't know
cross-access.
if it's subject to a 20-foot
It's in our
transition.
access management plan, isn't it?
Probably.
I think that's,
We can,
so
we can just
if that's
take
the
note
case,
of
they
that.
technically would be subject to a 20-foot transition yard here, unless the planning board at the time said in that particular road that may not be
I
necessary.
mean, I've used them and I've seen it blocked.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's true.
So if it's a really used road, we'd want to.
Yeah, for sure. Number 5, the applicant has indicated there would be no changes to the existing building. And then that section of the code just basically talks about, no franchise style architecture, something that's consistent with community character and the vernacular. So on the very bottom of page 3, I do say this. The planning board finds that the outdoor deck and patio areas are more suitable for a nightclub bar, but may not be appropriate for a cannabis retail dispensary. So if you look out here, this is where all the gathering is happening. They have a huge deck and a patio area where, well, you can see it here on the plan.
Well, that would imply that you're going to have on-site consumption.
Well, so I say here, given the close proximity of the site to the existing residential development, that, according to the residents, has been overwhelmed by the activities associated with the existing nightclub use. Every effort must be made to ensure the cannabis retail use remains as such and not a location for extended social gatherings. We do have in here in another section no on-site consumption, so it is in here.
Okay, because I think the state law allows cannabis cafes?
We are not at that point. We're a dispensary. That's what we are.
That's the only thing that the
That's the
town
only
has put into the code.
Let's put into the code,
Okay.
as far as I know. But I do say that perhaps this outdoor area is not appropriate for this. It should just be a retail use, and not a place where people could gather. And
So
everything.
what
I'm
would they do,
suggesting to
architecturally remove it or
I
enclose
would,
it?
well, yeah, and the other side of it is, Jackie, by doing that, remember, this is gonna have to be shifted. So they're gonna have to redesign this parking, so I'm also wondering that by removing this, you get a better
Yeah, better
traffic
circulation.
circulation and eliminating the potential, because it's a big area of people gathering and.
Yeah, I mean.
So it has to go back 20
It begs
feet.
to stay and hang out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we said that on the bottom of page 3. Top of page 4, since the existing building is over 75 years, anything has to go to landmarks. Also has to go to architectural review board, so we may get more recommendations that coming out of there. And number 6, we always suggest that the applicant meet with the architectural review board to see if they can get some preliminary comments. Number 7, there shall be no curbside or window service pickup of cannabis products. This came out of recent accusations, but we're not going to have, wide open, drug dealers in the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
we're
read
gonna
in
go in the building.
the paper that one of the other applicants was actually delivering.
Yeah, well, they said curbside pickup too, so, and then,
But the attorney testified that that was not happening, so we're right now in conversation with OCM, but curbside is not allowed, and nothing's allowed until they get site plan from this board.
yeah, which I do have in here. So I say no curbside or window service pickup in case any, 8, if the delivery service is provided, will cars be stored on site, and if so, how many? This is another new area that we haven't dealt with, so let's get that information. Any storage vehicles must be shown on the site plan and must be situated to the rear of the site to not be near the residences. 9, floor plans indicate unused or undefined area as non-cannabis usage. All space needs to be accounted for within the floor plans and within the parking calculations, I should note. Concerns were raised about a second use in the building that could include a cafe. A second use on the property would require review and approval from the planning board, and any restaurant type uses would need to be separate and apart from the cannabis retailer. Further, no on-site consumption rooms or spaces are permitted. Good. 10, the parking calculations weren't provided, but it's the standard retail 1 per 180, and they won't have a problem meeting it. Right now, they're showing ADA parking diagonal, sort of in front of the decks. ADA compliant parking really should be perpendicular, actually, and
close to the front entrance.
and they would need to show obviously ADA compliant access to the buildings.
88 parking spaces, secret?
What's that?
It triggers secret.
ADA, I said ADA.
Oh, ADA.
Yeah. No, not ADA. That'd be one
I'm the one that
large
usually can't hear.
cannabis
Yes.
retailer. Number 11, a single two-way access is recommended for this road. Right now, they're showing the 2. It's wide open. I would eliminate it, do 1 in and out, and line it up. I'm recommending with the driveway to the condo. So now you're avoiding shining your lights in the cars and the windows and everything. So to me, that makes sense. 12, provide the dumpster location and compliant enclosure with landscaping. I think they're showing it back here in the corner, but whether or not that's the most appropriate place, we'll see based on every redesign, but they do need to provide it. Number 13, this comes out of recent, no delivery services are permitted until site plan special exception approval has been granted by the planning board and all other required building permits, state and local approvals have been secured. Does that sound right, Christine?
You can't start.
Again, we've had a lot of,
running your business when you don't have approval for anything.
Why don't you move that, Anthony? Up after 8, because it relates to it, it's a.
Yeah, you're right, you're absolutely right.
So that's number 13.
Number 13. Up to that with the 8%. 14 talks about the traffic impact study. Given this property's close proximity to 39, and that intersection, which I drive by every single day, is a hairy intersection. We're gonna, like we do with all the other ones, we're gonna require a traffic study so we can see, what's going on. And then additional issues the planning board identified include time parking, accident reports for this section of highway, and new trip generation data for this use. I'd be curious to see the industries giving us new info. 15 talks about the landscaping plan. So it talks about specifically, you're blocked from County Route 39, but we do have the 20-foot transition yard along Tuckahoe, maybe something along the south there.
Definitely.
But I want to, right now the building is pretty hidden with the hedges, but I think better landscaping, make it look nicer. And I also say in there maybe some interior landscaping with the parking lot to break up the mess. So we do like that. Number 16 talks about the radius map. We need to know that 16, that they meet the, and I don't believe there's any issues here, but they meet the setbacks from schools, churches, community facilities. 17, a detailed safety management plan must be submitted, demonstrating compliance with all of the state and local regulations. 18, signage shall comply with the standards. We have, in the special exception standards. It talks about, no colloquial references to cannabis. So I talked to the Office of Cannabis Management to get a sense of what they mean by that, because we had this question raised with, we're going to discuss today, Bud Hampton. So Bud Hampton is not a colloquial reference. What they are talking about is pot leaves, clouds of smoke, hazy eyes, whatever it is, as a colloquial reference. So,
Do we have that list from them? Do we have guidance?
Maybe.
Maybe we can get it at the same time we need the.
Yeah, for sure. Number 19 just talks about the size of the building. And so if it's over 4,000, it's going to be an unlisted action. If that's the case, they should submit that along EAF with the traffic impact analysis and the pedestrian circulation plan. And 20 talks about the referrals during the formal application, which could result in some more site plan changes beyond what we say in here.
Anthony, do we have lighting here?
Yeah, there's something as it relates to, and if I didn't,
It should be separated out. Yeah.
I will put it in there. I'll mention the code compliant lighting consistent with the special.
Dark
exception.
skies.
Dark,
yes.
so yeah, absolutely.
Add lighting, right?
Lighting, for sure. Now, I don't know if the applicant is here. Feel free to get up and speak.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, welcome. Can we have your names for the record, please?
John Flanagan.
And Gordon Von Brook.
John Flanagan and.
Gordon Von Brook.
Okay.
BONBROOCK.
Okay.
The questions are?
So have you read the report? Do you have some questions, some comments?
We just got the report, so we're sort of analyzing it. Yeah, trying to.
But I mean, everything seems fine with us, and we're going to start putting everything together and hiring people to do it properly. And
Okay, so you're going to need a revised site plan.
Yeah, the formal. That's
no,
right.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is with the revision that they suggested with the lighting, we'll adopt this tonight, and then you take it and you can proceed.
I guess the bigger question is, do you guys have any questions for us or comments?
No, I think at this stage we got all the information to prepare
We
this
do.
report.
I mean, just a question to understand is that you understand what we're looking at internally with that big deck, and you need 20 feet setback. So how much cooperation you're going to offer?
Well, we're right now speaking to the architect to do the parish art museum, so we're looking at, that's kind of the look we're looking for there. So we're looking to change it from what it looks like now, which is a barren parking lot, an old potato barn, into something that would be, pleasing to the neighborhood.
Oh, okay, so you're really changing it up then?
Changing the way it looks, the landscaping being done properly. The building itself would remain the same, but it would, have a different look to it. Just sort of, and the interior would be, we're going to hire an architect to do that, the interior, but we're looking to sort of add to the neighborhood, and the nightclub part of it, which is bothering the tenants next to us, is operating between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 a.m. So by state law, we have to close by 9 p.m. So it's completely different. Right now at night, you can have hundreds and hundreds of cars going through there. And this is something that won't have that. It'll close at a certain hour. So there'd be less of a traffic flow than it is right now.
Right.
As far as the paper road that goes in the back there, when we bought the property 30 plus years ago, there wasn't a road there. We just allowed access back and forth, being
Tucker
sort of the good
Lane
neighbor.
isn't there, yeah.
And now it seems to have just become sort of a,
It
you know,
it
a
ultimately
thing.
becomes a planning board decision, but I will say this planner is not as concerned about the 20-foot transition along here. Some nice trees, some nice landscaping, whether or not you need a 20-foot transition, that remains, I'm not committed to
Is
that.
that road part of the site though?
No, it doesn't show as part of the site.
We
It's
should go
separate.
back.
Separate.
We should go back and look at what it says in the access.
No,
plan.
absolutely.
I know there was reference to it.
Yeah.
And we put that
Yeah,
together.
no, there might be, I'm just wondering about the transition setback.
Okay.
I think enough, it
Just
shouldn't be an
the
issue.
the landmark status, if you're planning to change the building, we should get the landmark review.
Yes, so
done.
I do have it noted in here that it does have to go to landmarks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No matter
I don't
what
think we're looking to change, the physical building itself it's like a bunker. It's an old potato
it's an
barn.
old potato barn.
So we're not looking to level it or to change anything. We're looking to,
It's more
sort of,
landscape.
yeah, bring it up to modern
But
times.
just, even simple things like changing the color, or adding a window or a door
Right.
does require art.
I mean, when we first bought the place, it had signage all over it. And when I was a young guy, it had a plane that was actually
Yeah, I was gonna say, the
Great
plane,
Scott,
yeah.
Great Scots. So I mean, it went from being almost like a fictional looking thing, with literally had a plane sticking out of the side of it. And
half a plane. was
yeah, half a
sticking out.
plane.
That's
so,
actually before my time.
yeah, and so it's gone through a lot of different things, but I think that the nightclub side of it, because across the street was commercial land, and when it changed into residential, we realized this is not going to coexist.
Well,
So-
I was just giving you a heads up
Yeah.
that landmarks, if there's landmarks.
Of course,
status.
yeah.
Right.
And we want to respect that, and we want something that's going to look good, not something that's going to. We're not looking to open a fast food restaurant or crazy signage
They
anywhere.
make you put the plane back though.
Yeah. If we can get the plane back, you guys want it, we'll go for it.
I love that plane.
Okay, so our action today is to adopt the pre-submission conference report with the changes that we made, Anthony. Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Jackie, just real quick, my next two are just extensions, we're not
Okay.
actually doing anything, so.
To do that public hearing.
So number 7, he has a
Work
walk-on.
session, that works, walk on.
He has a walk-on. So let's just do,
Oh,
let's do Trotta,
Okay.
all right?
Trotta is going to be an extension until November 14th.
To November 14th. Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. And Hampton Cove Estates also,
Extension,
extension to
November 14th.
November 14.
Motion.
Either one
Motion,
of them will be-
motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, and 1 absent.
What was this walk on? The other day?
Yeah,
No, that
did
was
you,
Prena had a walk on with the hearing.
I thought you had, what was the first work
didn't you have a
session?
work, the road abandonment?
I have a road abandonment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, what was the first work session you had?
For the
gun
shooting
club.
the
range.
gun club, the gun
The
club.
gun club.
The gun club.
Weren't we gonna set work, public hearing for that?
Yeah, we could do that.
We
I think
did.
you're right.
We did.
We said it in the work session, but there was never a vote.
We
Okay.
can't do it in work session. That's what
No,
I'm saying.
so
You can do it
who's,
as a
so
block.
whose
we had to come
application?
back.
So here,
Is it Anthony's? Okay,
So, then Sabonic Training Center, we would schedule the public hearing for December 12th.
okay,
And
so
that's-
add on 2022 is the Sabonic shooting,
Training center.
training
center.
center, where they shoot. Training center, public hearing for December 12th.
That's within the 5 that we have? Okay.
Okay, so motion?
Motion.
Gloria, second Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent, that's set. Okay.
So my,
Anthony, your oh, that's Teresa.
Yeah, I was just gonna see if I could do my 5 and
Yes.
7 mil farm.
Okay, let's go to, number 10, Stella Luna. Stella
That was
Luna?
gonna be next, I just wanted to see if I could do my road abandonment next, I think it's gonna be very quick.
What
Oh,
number is
okay,
It's gonna be bad.
it's a walk-on.
that? Oh, it's a walk on.
So 23, what's it called, Anthony?
It's called 5 and 7 Mill Farm Lane.
5 and 7 Mill Farm Lane.
All right, let me show you. This is something that the board has seen twice, once with Jackie, once with me. It was a simple road abandonment. This is the subdivision here, 7 ponds at Water. Road abandonment request came in for this piece. It started with Jackie. And Jackie met with the applicant, and the owner changed, and they came back to me, and I sort of sat on it, and then we discussed it once, and then I realized we had the subdivision next door. When the board had a discussion, there was not a concern about abandoning the road per se. The question was, what's happening with the subdivision next door? And what was suggested by Jackie Fenlon was that the subdivision next door be said and done before the road abandonment happens. Okay. Because you want to make sure you don't need it for access.
Yes.
What happened though, as everybody knows, this is Corwick Red Barn. The town purchased the development rights already.
We've got those 5 lots on there.
And so what's adjacent to this road now is the preserved land, which is accessed from up here. Based on the public hearings that we had and looking at the subdivision next door, I don't believe this farm piece needs this access for any particular reason. So at this stage, I just wanted to do the road
It's not
abandonment
usable.
for 5 and 7 Mill Farm for the unnamed road adjacent to them.
Good cleanup. Okay, so do you have a,
I didn't, it was a walk-on, so I'm just.
so just tell us your language for the record?
Okay, so it is,
5
the abandonment of the unnamed road adjacent to 5 and 7 Mill Farm Road, subject to the filing of the necessary legal paperwork.
Okay, good. Motion, Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, then we'll go back in order. Teresa, 16 Indian Avenue.
This was a pre-app report that we adopted last September, and they're just asking for an extension of the pre-app report for a year.
To be clear, Christine wants it this time.
Right.
Oh, you want it.
Oh, I
Yes.
thought it was Halloween. That's what I'm like.
Are you kidding?
I had to do that. Like, no, I want to get the good stuff before it goes to her. All right.
Okay, 16 Indian Avenue, what were you saying? I'm
It
sorry.
was it's just an
An
extension of the pre-app report.
Dark chocolate is good.
It expired at the end of September, so they're just asking to extend it
Two,
for a year.
for 1 year.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 16.
9.
Oh, 9, sorry.
And then if
16 Indian Avenue.
Yes. If we could take one more out of order, number 16, this is 173 Norris. It's a subdivision application. I have a checklist for you. It is incomplete mainly because they are constructing a new residence on proposed lot 1, and they didn't give us coverage calculations. So we don't know that the new proposed lot 1 will comply with the zoning requirements.
So we're deeming it
deeming
incomplete.
it incomplete.
Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And Teresa,
We're deeming it incomplete.
Teresa,
It's good. Just to deem it complete, we didn't need it.
Incomplete. Do you want it? Does anybody have it?
Teresa,
Okay, we're moving on to Stella Luna Family Trust, number 10.
So this is
Welcome.
the property,
Let's be official, the record.
Lisa Boyer on
Lisa.
behalf of the applicant.
I have
Greetings,
it up on the
Lisa.
aerial there, 1645 Millstone Road, R80, Aquifer Protection Overlay District. So we have clearing restrictions for this. This is, the pre-application was submitted in 2012 for this.
Oh, I remember.
Wow.
So it's been a long time. It's actually 2 lots down here, one for the existing residents, and then a second lot. And then the third lot is open space. This is, the other side of it, Dennis knows this has been going on for years. This had a conditional final approval already, actually. And I'm not entirely sure why I made Lisa resubmit everything to me, but I think it was because the health department expired, and I felt uncomfortable. So, you know, we're basically reapproving what was approved before.
Did you update the health department?
Yes,
I-
we have
so-
health department approval.
It's public water there now, right?
Yes.
So,
That was one of my questions, because I saw the original health department approval was before the IA systems were required. What happens now?
They approved they approved the map for health department purposes, but there's no requirement to upgrade the existing house for an IA system. The new house, when it's constructed, will have to go and get a separate health department approval for the new house.
so that is absolutely true at the time. So it's almost irrelevant what that map says, because once they go for a building department.
Okay.
That being said, Gloria, this map shows the IA system sitting there.
Okay, well, I'm just.
So I never got them. We know
So
it's
health
not.
department approval is for the lots themselves, not any sanitary systems.
Okay.
Yeah, the health department is making sure that there's enough area to
put one
Put a
in.
septic in, yeah.
So if you just look at this resolution, the very first it's of the same exact resolution. That first whereas, I just got to put in the new dates for the health department approval. Same thing with the findings. I have to tell you, because there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, but engineer has signed off on this already. Common driveway plans have been stamped approved. Legal
When?
document within the last 2 years. They did the map and started doing everything, and I think there was an estate issue or whatever happened. So I don't know how much of this you just want me to go to the resolve part, to be quite honest.
You can, but I mean, do you say that it's a reapproval?
No, it should say it in the front, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should say. Actually, in the resolve, I should say that. Yeah, why don't we just go to the resolve parts, actually?
Yeah,
I actually want to get this to the town board so I can get the open space
Oh, yeah.
dedicated. It's on the bottom of page 6, actually.
Okay, now get it resolved.
So, acknowledgement letter, which is the standard A, that prior to a building permit, installation of fire hydrants will be required. The receipt of the subdivision regulations relative to road and drainage and the common driveway, which has already been approved by the engineer.
You have to put in a new hydrant?
We've already done that.
They've already done that.
That was done well.
Yeah.
It really got to the point of just prior to recording the map. I don't know what happened. Owners
fell apart.
Something changed. They just never recorded it, but all the other work was done just up to the recordings.
I still don't know why I didn't do an extension
Great.
or whatever.
Thank you.
So,
Percentage calculations of open space had to be provided. I'm pretty sure this is all done. Contract approved for payment with the water authority. That's already done since everything's installed. Blow-off valves, which are shown on here. Ownership and dimensions of millstone, which are on here. Street numbers. Meets and bounds description for future offer of dedication. Town engineer approval and signature of final common driveway and drainage plans. A revegetation plan submitted.
that was submitted
Okay.
and approved as well.
Okay, so we had a revegetation plan that was submitted and brought before this board and approved. Declaration of covenants and restrictions, pretty standard, no further subdivision. It says period there. I've never seen that before. It says no further subdivision of any lots, period. No lot line modifications without planning board approval, flag lot restrictions for lot 1 and 2. Utilities are installed underground, no new utility poles. This was under the original 2-inch rainfall when he did it, so.
Now it's 3.
Yeah. Clearing, grading, and subbase of the common driveway prior to the conveyance or building permits for lots 1 and 2. Construction of the common utilities for lots 1 and 2. Prior to conveyance of the lots, issuance of building permits for the lots, or construction of the common driveway, whichever occurs first. Construction of the common driveway for lots 1 and 2 prior to the issuance of a CO, and that should say also signed off by the engineer. R60 zoning setbacks. This is a cluster plan. So just to explain to Dave, so we have a cluster plan here that we saw how many lots conform to zoning. Then the planning board said we'd like to see half this property preserved as open space. So those 2 lots then become smaller than what the 2-acre zoning requires, and then the planning board has the ability to apply a lesser zoning standard. So that's what they did here.
Thank you.
Aquifer protection clearing restrictions, which are shown on the plan. Common driveway easement, common utility easement, submission of the open space deed, submission of the future offer of dedication to be executed by the property owners of parcels 2, 3, and 4 of the revised subdivision map of Grunsbeiser. So I don't know what happened with that. When this subdivision first came in, there was a lot of discrepancies between driveways and the neighbors and everything else that had to be resolved and apparently addressed with the future of offer dedication. And I think all of this was actually done and filed, by the way. Amended declaration of covenants restrictions, again for the same reason as pertains to the adjacent subdivision.
Were there slope easements, as the conservation board had recommended?
I don't think you guys required it. I didn't prepare this resolution. This was prepared by Jackie.
Track contains slopes in excess of 15%. I mean, I went there because you have 2-inch drainage, you know.
Yeah.
So stuff is
It
gonna
says the
be.
majority of the slopes are within the open space.
That's why. That's why you didn't do it, because most of what they saw was
It's
sitting
there.
in here. Good, thank you.
It's at least for the referral.
Yeah. Title certification, mortgage release for dedications if applicable, mortgage consents for covenants if applicable, town attorney approval of all legal documents, town board acceptance of the open space, submission of 4 Mylars and 10 paper prints for signature by the planning board, and then recording of those maps within 62 days. Oh, and be further resolved that this will be forwarded to the planning commission. So it's the same exact resolution before. 95% of this is already done, so I think the last few pieces are going to be getting the open space dedicated, getting those documents approved. And
So what's our action?
just to reapprove subject to the conditions in here. That way, anything that's been met already, I'll deal with in my office, checking it off.
So
We'll
it's
just
a
keep them out there in case.
So it's a reapproval.
Motion.
Motion by Valorian, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Good to
Thank
see you, Lisa.
Thank you.
We're finally gonna finish Jacqueline Cressy.
It's fallen into the sea.
No, it's still there when it's pilings.
So number 11, Jacqueline Cressy. Welcome, Wayne. How are you?
Yep, see, this is good.
Hi.
This is good up here. So it's the, obviously you can see the lot in the back here, sitting in the bay, and the lot back there. So this was a lot line change, to give that back lot more land, bring it in, and a wetlands permit. For the waterfront lot, by the way. We didn't do one for the back lot. You'll see that we have a condition in here. I met with Tom and the applicant on this one, Tom, the engineer, to make sure everything was in order. So just so you know, we'll get to it in there, what he's suggested, and what we can do the front lot. He wants to make sure he properly reviews this, because the area is, it's hard. It's a really hard area. So we put a condition in here for Tom's recommendation for site plan approval for the property. So that way it could go through, that was his recommendation.
For the front lot.
For the front lot.
For the front lot.
So that way.
The front lot meaning
There's
the
some
one
drainage
that's
issues there,
on the
right?
road.
On the road, yes.
Okay.
There's some drainage issues there.
Yeah, and Tom acknowledged that, and they acknowledged that, so we figured when they want to do that, let them come in and we'll take a look at it.
So
We
we'll
could
just,
get
go to the building department.
And we believe that the engineering review part of the planning process is going to be more detailed. So anyway, I have a resolution here. We have a final application for the transfer of the property and a wetlands permit. Do you want me to go through all the warehouses? No. So here.
Unless Wayne has a question. You
No,
may
he
have a
doesn't.
question.
He will, but he doesn't.
Anthony's been working on this, and like you said, we adjourned this a couple times.
Yeah.
One was because the town engineer just cut and pasted his 2021 report, and then when we met with him, he's like, oops, I didn't really review the new plan in detail, and that's where the recommendation, among other things, the future site plan review on the front lot.
On the front lot.
came in. But then Anthony
wasn't with us the last meeting, so. Yeah, but in
I finally
between,
got COVID.
in between,
Sick, yeah.
he did
Get a badge.
share the drafts of this with us, so we more or less. had
You're, okay. All right, so where do you wanna go?
So, bottom of page 2, where we have the conservation board providing comments. They support the lot line change, because it retreats, from the water. If I was gonna summarize 2, 3, 4, 5, I mean, they would like to see larger buffers and larger preservation areas than what we have, but, you know, look, the reality is on the map, you know, it's tight, it's a tight.
We're looking at it.
It's tight, but I just, I sort of highlighted in pink so you can sort of see.
There's a certain amount of benefit of taking the house that's sitting in the water.
You have to sort of weigh these things a little bit.
And
So,
putting in new septic.
and putting in a new septic system, that, so it is a trade-off. The engineer provided comments. Some minor things: retaining wall extended south to accommodate the ramp for the driveway. I recommend a covenant requiring all future development to go through site plan process. I recommend a covenant requiring all stormwater runoff resulting from the development and improvement of the subdivision and any of its lots shall be retained on site. So then that will flow into the right-of-way Bayview Drive, and obviously adequate drainage structures shall be installed to capture 3 inches. A little stronger language than he normally puts in there, but this area is sort of
Cause the property to the south is
and the
being
monuments.
affected.
So he recommended engineering approval, subject to the very few things. So.
I'm happy about that.
I am too. That was a good thing. Highway superintendent just wants a hold harmless for the same reason because of the flooding.
Although this is
That is not.
No, it's a private road, but I'm allowed to walk on it.
No, no one's gonna slide.
The next page is the findings. The Cressy property and the Bayview are non-conforming lots in the R40 zoning district, but they are single and separate. Both improved with single-family residences. Lot 2 is currently non-conforming with respect to zoning, wetlands, sanitary, FEMA, and the fact that it's sitting in the bay. The Cressy property is in current shape and configuration, does not provide adequate area to permit the existing building to be relocated or redeveloped. The transfer of property is intended to provide the Cressy property. Is it Cress or Cressy? I'm sorry. Cress. I'm sorry about that. I really am. I've been mispronouncing it.
And I've been following what you said.
I know.
Right,
I
we've
know.
all called it Cressy. Sorry.
The garden roll call was Cressy, and I've been correcting it on.
The transfer of property is intended to provide the Cress property adequate area to redevelop. Number 6, installation of the IA system on both properties, actually, ultimately. Public water. The transfer property will permit the applicant to restore and revegetate the area of disturbance where the existing dwelling is located, and the establishment of natural buffers between the high water mark and surrounding wetlands. Applications and approvals have been secured from the ZBA, DEC, and the Health Department. No park requirement here because we have 2 existing residences. This final application is consistent with the planning board's pre-app report. The upland redevelopment of the Cressy property consists of a new 2-story, 4-bedroom, single-family dwelling having 1,712 square foot footprint with attached porch, 119 square feet, chimney, 10 square feet, front deck and stairs, 354 square feet, rear deck, 495 square feet, and 10 by 36 swimming pool with coping, 480 square feet. Not typical we would lay that out like that, but when Marty Shea does wetlands permits, he specifies everything, so we like to do the same thing. Upland redevelopment includes new IA systems, which in this on lot 2 requires 600 cubic yards of fill, which is necessary for the retaining walls. For it says, I guess, for which portion of property 54 feet in length. For the driveway, the redevelopment will retain all stormwater on site. The installation of appropriate French drain facilities. It does include French drains. And number 15 says this meets the criteria for approval as a transfer of property. So the first resolve is that you're waiving any further subdivision review because this is a different longer process for a subdivision, Dave. So we treat a lot line change just as the transfer of property. So there's a procedure that's a little less complicated, not in this case, but normally. And then next resolve, the planning board authorizes the transfer of 7,565 square feet from tax lot 27 to tax lot 23, which would result in a lot area of 15,865 square feet. And they, did I mess up that?
Lot 2 is the waterfront.
And that's going to be the 15,865, and then 6,800 for the front line. Correct. Okay. That is correct then. Subject to the following: number one, submission of revised plans establishing a wetlands and non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer over the existing wetlands on Lot 2 and along the waterfront of Lot 2 per the recommendation of the Conservation Board. So we'll look at that.
So let's just talk about that, because part of the question is the Conservation Board recommended, Marty recommended certain numbers, which you put in the covenant down below, which is in 4G. But one of the things, what Anthony shows here, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll just describe it and then we can look at it a little closer. The pink line that Anthony drew is the wetland line, and what he didn't draw was the mean high water mark, which is the real concern here, is the bay. But so the first thing is the mean high water mark is here, and what is necessary is once the house is removed, that area that is above the mean high water mark is restored with beach grass and other native, and that will become a buffer. So that one you're okay with. And then you would have a little space around the pool so that you're not going to plant native vegetation right up to the edge of the pool. And then it comes along the north where that wetland line. The closest point right here is only 5.7 feet. And Marty was recommending a blanket 5 feet along the whole north. On the other hand, when we get to this point with the retaining wall, which is necessary for the septic, there's nothing or any need. Here we need to get around the house. Down here we don't, and it actually, we can buffer this entire area, which is much wider than 5 feet. So our point is, we would like to not necessarily just be 5 feet across the whole thing, but a variable width to make sure we're not going to have a buffer that someone's trampling over otherwise. And then similarly over here, he had recommended a 10-foot buffer, but the closest point is 15 feet. But this is actually the area where the driveway activities, this would be where a kayak or otherwise would be taken down to the bay with a path that goes through the other buffer. So we'd like to.
But you want some walking space, is that what it is?
Right, right. So we just want acknowledgement, because frankly, if you're gonna have anybody maintain the house, you gotta have some to maneuver.
That's fair. That's fair. So when we get to it, so we'll amend that. We could do the buffer, like you said here. It covers most of it except for like 5 feet around the pool, but I don't cover the whole area. I think what you're saying here is you don't mind doing, let's say, from the point of the retaining wall down, doing a buffer.
There at all, but here we don't mind, but it's just
not 5 feet.
It can't be 5 feet
because we're at 5'7". Okay, so I think doing the buffer up here is good, the full buffer. I think doing the full buffer here is good. It's better than the 5 feet that I said. And then let's,
it'll be a couple
make
feet.
that thin, 2 feet.
Something like that. Just they have to be able to get around.
And meanwhile, the buffer is two things. One is we're physically going to plant something in that area, but more importantly, we're going to use that when it's delineated on a map to prepare a covenant, which includes what Marty defines, if you see in his report, what is called the wetland preservation area,
right,
as well as the upland buffer.
Right.
So
And
that whole area would be subject to the covenant.
the lot to the north is the new big concrete mausoleum.
Yes. And
Which
that,
I'm sure
and
you're
by the way,
watching.
that wetland that is there is a result of a mosquito ditch back in the 40s that ran between the two properties. And that's, it still sort of remains, and that is still a wetland. It becomes wet when water comes
Yep.
So.
So here's what we will say. Let me bring my pen. So on those first ones, submission of revised plans to establish a wetlands and non-disturbance buffer over the existing wetlands in lot 2 and along the waterfront lot 2. We don't have to say per the recommendation of the conservation board, because we just established what we're going to require.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to say that. Right? Number 2, submission of revegetation plan for the portion of lot 2 that will be disturbed after removal of the existing dwelling to be reviewed and approved by the planning division in consultation with the environment division. You okay?
That's
Number 1, lot 1 is subject to site plan approval by the planning board prior to a building permit being issued for any
Is that going
construction.
to be a covenant on that one?
That should be in the covenant, that's correct.
Which one?
Number 3, lot 1 is subject to site plan approval.
Yeah, isn't that not in the covenant?
No, it's not, I gotta fix that. Number 4, submission of declaration of covenants and restrictions. A, no further subdivision or lot line transfer without planning board approval. B, all new utilities shall be underground for both lots 1 and 2. C, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffers as depicted on the map. That's what I think it should say, right?
Well, you also have it down under G.
Okay.
So.
3, D is the 3-inch drainage. E is the coverage of the speedies. That goes through the DEC, that goes to Tom's office. F, retention of all stormwater runoff and erosion sediment during.
G that we need to change.
Yeah, I do have to add.
Right, so let's get the right things in there.
Yeah, it will be subject, you know, frankly, your C, non-disturbance, as described herein, it's, the key is back to number 1, which is the map that we're gonna submit showing the variable buffer areas.
I think what we're gonna say there, Jackie, and I've seen this done before, is minimum naturally vegetated buffer zones covering the areas depicted on the map of varying width, I think is what we're gonna have to say here. It's gonna be hard to.
Subject to staff.
Subject to staff and, final map approval. So that's what we'll do, we'll do that, I think it's better. Minimum 1.2 setback at the closest point for the driveway, 5.1 at the closest point for the residential structures, 7.4 feet at the closest point to the retaining wall, and 17.9 feet at the closest point for the wastewater disposal sanitary system. Installation of leaders and gutters and other storm water control devices for lot 2. Again, I want to be very specific because they got to come back for lot 1. J talks about the project limiting fence being installed along the landward side of the wetlands buffers. Fix that as a typo. And then notifying the planning division prior to any construction so we could make sure everything's good. 5, submission of the title certification. 6, mortgagee's consent to recording covenants if applicable. 7, submission of draft deeds pertaining to the land transfer. So we always ask for the draft deeds, reflecting the new meets and bounds description. Town attorney approval of all legal documents, execution of the transfer via the 3 deeds, and then submission of 10 copies of the transfer map for the planning board signature, and completion of all conditions within 90 days. And then further resolve, the planning board approves the wetlands permit, and that description there gives a detailed description of the square footage, the amount of fill and everything else that's going to be in there. And then it's subject to the standard conditions for wetlands permits. Notifying the planning division 24 hours in advance, subject to inspection by staff here, authorized officials. This is actually language directly from the wetlands permits that we do, yeah.
You can get to the special one.
Yeah. These are all the standard wetlands permit conditions if you just go to the next page. Yep, 8, 9, and 10, these are all the apply to all wetlands permits. Special conditions of the permit. 1, all construction shall strictly conform to the final revised plans stamped by the planning board. 2, revisions of the plans to depict the covenant and non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffers as required as a condition of the transfer of property. So we are going to get a map now that's going to show, the buffers. Revegetation of portion of lot 2 that will be disturbed after removal of the existing dwelling. The revegetation shall be inspected and approved by the planning prior to an issue of the CO. A project limiting fence shall be installed prior to commencement of work. All portions of the proposed driveway and parking area shall be gravel or with permeable pavers or cellular grass reinforced concrete surfaces to allow for rainwater infiltration and catchment of runoff, which is always good. Dwelling shall be equipped with leaders and gutters and direct stormwater runoff, or to direct stormwater runoff into dry wells. And an as-built survey depicting everything when everything is said and done, so we can make sure that it was built according to the plans that we approved.
You don't put 3 inch here? 3 inch?
3 inches in there, it's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah, that was in the previous, yeah. Take that.
I'll take out Bruce Anderson's name.
Yes.
Have you ever seen
Alright.
a lot line modification with such a big resolution?
Well, this is a unique
This is a
property.
unique parcel.
It was,
Very unique
it was
property.
a very large
I thank you
project
for all your attention
that,
Yeah.
that
your patience.
we tried to make the best for you and for the environment.
And let's hope a major storm doesn't come. That's always the anxiety. All right, so we're going to move to adopt this report.
So you're gonna, actually, you're,
What are we doing?
you're approving the land transfer, the land transfer and the wetlands permit for lot 2.
Separate resolutions.
Do you
They're in
want-
the same resolution.
Okay,
I'll move it.
so motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
I
Opposed,
really, really
abstentions?
wanted to move it.
You want me to rescind? No.
6 in favor, 1
This is
absent,
done.
thanks,
Thank you.
good luck.
Thank
Yeah.
thanks for your patience.
Yes. Prina, Bomni, Welexi, number 13 is off the agenda. Then we go back to Anthony with Budhampton, number 14.
Yeah, so I wasn't here last time. It's the Carmel site. Carmel, yeah.
What's the picture of, Anthony?
Oh.
It's a
Now
castle.
I can't get out of it. It changes every couple of hours.
Oh, okay, so it's.
Another dispensary.
Let's see. So, we have a formal application. Why don't you guys go over there? Do you have a copy of the site plan here?
Okay, number 14, Budhampton.
Yeah, we have a copy of that, right?
Okay, welcome. We have your name for the record, please.
Walter Dunn, Dunn Engineering.
Walter Dunn.
Amanda,
Right.
go ahead.
No, ladies.
Amanda Giraldi, Air Design.
Amanda.
That's it.
Greg Connor.
So, we had a formal application come in, so you always had a completeness review. And the applicant, we deemed it incomplete, was pending the additional information. The additional information was submitted, our engineer has reviewed it, and said everything's in order. This is a type 2 action under SECRET. It's a 900 square foot building, doesn't meet any criteria for anything other than a type 2. However, the special exception criteria in the code do allow the planning board to require a traffic study as it relates to cannabis retailers. It is also noted that outside of SECRET, the town code does allow the planning board to hire consultants to review these things as it pertains to site plan special exception. So it's really not just limited to SECRET. In other words, you can still hire a consultant even if this is a type 2, because you require a traffic study. The site plan regulations specifically say in there that the planning board could hire anybody. That being said, this plan, as you know, is proposing right into the property, right, and then Mr. Connor owns the other properties, is doing basically a cross access to bring it to the light here. I mean, that was something that the planning board
Yes, to the
asked for
signal.
with this.
It's a big enhancement.
It absolutely is, and then it is also my understanding that they've been working with. So before we get to the traffic thing, I wanted you to explain what else you're doing besides this. Because my understanding is you're working with the DOT. I believe this is a de-acceleration lane that's going to be contemplated here.
It's a number of modifications that we wanted to review with you, but essentially, yes. We've made a submission to the state DOT. We went through the permit department. I can give you the names of the 2 people we spoke there with and that we've been working with. And essentially, we gave them a traffic impact study because we wanted to show them some of the key points that I want to present to the board today that I think are very key to this. One of them is the access. Right? So then what they just asked us for is to submit a copy of the formal site plan to them for the review. So we're going to be doing that. Amanda's going to give me the plans tomorrow. I'll look them over. We're going to add some signing that we see missing internally because of the one-way aspect coming in, and then we're going to see what they say with the review. I believe they're going to review the traffic impact study and give us comments on that. But the big thing that I'll show you and emphasize again today is that this doesn't meet the state's requirement or criteria that they have for an applicant to submit a traffic impact study. Essentially, that requirement is that the site has to, the proposed site has to have 100 additional vehicles per hour in order to require a traffic impact study. And we're going to show you what my handouts are tonight, are that there is no additional traffic being generated. There's going to be zero additional traffic, which is a beneficial traffic impact study with this proposed use. And I'm going to show you how we get to that point. So that we've done everything else that's compliant with parking. The access management plan term is an important one with state DOT. That means that we're using the adjacent parcel as the planning board desired to come out under the safety of the operation of the traffic signal. We're putting a southern leg to the intersection, which doesn't exist now. I believe I did the design of the traffic signal back when the Bridgehampton Commons was developed eons ago, I guess we could say. I guess we're still here, thank God for that. Right? So, what did I miss? So, in essence, they're going to have another review by a pretty good traffic engineering group. Where I came from, as a matter of fact, when I first worked for the state for 15 years before I went to private practice. Right? So, you're going to be getting that other review. So, why pay for somebody else to do it when you're going to get it for free? And the taxpayers don't want to hear that, I don't think. You know? But what we're saying is that there is no traffic impact here because it doesn't have to generate additional traffic. It actually generates less traffic than the Carvel use. And I might as well deviate. Let me hand out some of these copies here.
If I may just say with the planning board though, at the end of this discussion, the question for the board is, do you not want to have somebody
Look at it.
look at it?
Yes.
And you know,
Sorry. Yes. Right?
One more.
We need one more. What do you think, Tom?
I'd like to,
Next one.
Let's hear
Walter, maybe you want to go through this quickly. I
Yeah.
have some comments, but I'd
Let's
like to see what you've
Let's do
done
that.
first, maybe.
Okay, so I just tried to pick out the key factors here that I think are the significant things that I'd like to point out to the board. And the first one, first page, is actually page 14 from the traffic impact study. And what we're trying to show here is that, one, how do you determine the amount of traffic for a dispensary use? Particularly on Long Island, there's only been a few developments. Seems to be more coming through the board here as I sat back and heard the whole session today. And so probably gonna have to look at this again, but there's a concern that how much traffic is gonna be generated. There's some we read in the papers of star streams on Route 110 in the Farmingdale area. And then, I'm sorry, should have turned this one off before. And my son wanted to know when I'm coming home for dinner, I guess. So, apologize. So what we did is we used what I've always referred to the board as the traffic engineer's Bible, I guess. And that is the Institute of Transportation Engineers Strip Generation Manual. And this has a listing of every type of land use that you can think of. And it goes out and they collect data for each one of those developments, and they note the size, the location, whether it's a suburban area or an urban area or a rural area, and they come up with national data that's compiled. So if I look at some of the friends who graduated from my son from high school a few years back, and that as soon as they graduated from college, where did they go? Colorado. What a coincidence. That was a state that has a dispensary legal out there, and several other states like that. So there are a number of states that have this data available, and that's what we relied on rather than going out and counting another one that just started up here. It's sort of like considering that the more dispensaries, adult dispensaries that open, it means that that growing area is now reduced. For instance, the Star Springs on 110, New York State Route 110, they were attracting people from Queens to come out. Now we're hearing there's going to be one in Hampton Bays. There's another one that's proposed at Riverhead. Every time that happens, it's like a liquor store starting up. How many people come to a liquor store? If there was a first liquor store on Long Island, there might be thousands of people coming to it. But when you get that national data, it shows that this is a realistic approach and has been used satisfactorily in developments throughout the country. So that's what we did. We used that trip generation. And the first thing we saw is that both the dispensary and the existing Carvel ice cream store do not have any traffic generated in the morning peak hour, because they start after the 9 a.m. end of the peak hours, which may extend a little bit because of the jams on the road.
One important thing to remember, the C of O for this Carvel that's currently operating under fast food could easily morph into much more intensive use. Dunkin' Donuts, a hamburger place, McDonald's. It's one of the most traffic intensive uses. It just so happens this Carvel does not generate traffic, but the evaluation has to be, we have to do the evaluation as if this could morph into much more intensive.
And that's an excellent point, and we pointed it out in the traffic impact study we read, is that, it could be a 7-Eleven,
Yeah.
it could be a gasoline station that has a number of pump stations, and it generates more traffic. It may be coming off the existing traffic, so it may not be new traffic, but it's new site-generated traffic. That's the important thing. So that's one of the reasons why we think this, even though it's new, it's a pretty good use based upon the amount of traffic it's generating. And then if we looked at the PM peak hours, we see that the proposed use actually generates less traffic than the Carvel. And how did we determine that? We went out and we collected, I believe it was May 9th and May 11th, a Thursday and a Saturday, back in 2024 now, 3 months ago. We collected the amount of people going in and out of the Carvel, even though I would assume that with children, because children are going to be going out and having more activity at a Carvel in the summertime, right? So that would be probably higher than we counted. That would be the use on the Carvel side.
And was this the Carvel in Bridgehampton? Or
Exactly,
Yeah,
right
Bridgehampton.
across from Bridgehampton Commons
Okay,
on the south side of the road.
That's the Buthampton.
And adjacent to properties owned under control of Mr. Connor.
I heard a Carvel.
Yes,
not-
a Carvel, right.
Which could be
A
anyone,
Carvel ice
anywhere.
cream store, absolutely. So what we see is if we look at the percentage of increase in traffic, it's 0%, because we're generating less traffic in Carvel, so it's a negative one. And as I said before, we look at that as a positive traffic impact. So that is the key that we're trying to show from this first slide here. Now, how do we get to this point to look at things? The first figure here that we handed out is, I have some larger plans to it, but I felt it's nice if you had, each one of you had your own, so you don't have to strain the right looking at it. Like maybe straining some of these because they're a small scale to fit on the 8.5 by 11. So if you look at figure 3 that came out of the appendix, or the appendix, which is section 2 of the traffic impact study, you can see the Carvel, and what we see from that Carvel is you see a building on it, but you don't see much landscaping. You just see an open site, and I know that's been a concern of the board. And so I think they've been addressing that in much detail to show that the site plan that will show you takes care of some of those features. It gets rid of them by adding pertinent information and materials, the driveways, the parking spaces, the little like the frontage area of the site. We're going to do the whole facade of the front building, of the face of the building, which is going to make it fit into the character of the area, rather than looking at, I don't know what you want to call it, but not one that has all the things that you want in a developed area. the key thing I want to point your attention to on this is, if you look right in front of the Carvel, you see that when we designed the Bridgehampton Commons, we have a traffic signal which is going to be on your left side of this diagram. You'll see where the stop line bars are, and you can see where the crosswalk is. That driveway there is the signalized intersection of New York State Route 27 with the facility. And what we're proposing is to have a southerly leg to serve this access plan which we show in more detail, the one that you see in front of you now, Anthony. So our concern was that all the pavement markings in front of the Carvel means that if we were designing this now, we wouldn't design it this way, because one, that eastbound to northbound left turn lane into the Bridgehampton Commons, that left turn lane is taking up a predominant amount of space in front of the site. Plus, it's showing that the area just to the west of it is covered by the yellow striped lines there. That means that if somebody was really entering this site, they'd be violating state rules by crossing over these. So that was one of the things from a traffic safety standpoint that we wanted to do, as well as use the traffic signal to have a safe operation for the people coming in and out of the site. So that covers. Any question on this so far?
I got a couple of questions for you. And I appreciate the traffic volume analysis, and I tend to think that this is not a high volume location. The other thing I know, when I look at traffic impact studies, to me, what I look at probably most intensely is crashes. Did you pull the crash data for this stretch of road?
Absolutely.
And did you see left turning crashes coming out of the Carvel?
We didn't see anything that showed the location
That's what
of Carvel.
I think we looked at.
You
shared this.
Yeah,
and
it surprised me because you'd think by looking at it that maybe people are so used to doing it, we get the same clientele there all the time. And kids want to go out every night for ice cream.
Well, here's kind of where I'm going with this. And I do remember, taking a look at what you had done, I think, but sometimes we see a lot of studies and I sometimes get them mixed up in my brain. So I want to just confirm with you on that, because one of the concerns I have, and the reason I asked about left turning crashes, as you know, is you put in traffic signals essentially to make left turns safer. That's my layman's interpretation of working on and reading a lot of different reports. I'm concerned about connecting to the signal, and I think I'm in the minority here at the table right now. For this single development, I mean, the earlier proposals have been for much larger developments here that would make sense to connect to that signal. I'm a little concerned about connecting to that signal because you're going, that one car coming out or two cars coming out every hour or whatever, not every hour, but one every 10 minutes is going to flip that signal, and it's going to again compromise the east-west traffic flow. And obviously the safety of your site is what we're sitting here to consider, but I'm afraid we're congesting Montauk Highway even further by connecting to that signal, so that you're going to have that signal flipping for one car to come out or two cars to come out, and then 10 or 15 or 8 minutes later or whatever it might be, you're going to have that signal flipping red again for one car or two cars to come out. So I'm a little concerned about that. That's why I asked the situation with the existing, and I wasn't aware, if you make a left out of here, you're saying when they cross those lines, you're technically breaking the law.
Also suicidal.
But there hasn't been a record of accidents.
No, and that's what surprised me, quite frankly. And let me just finish that, George. That's a very good concern. Actually, it's the primary concern of a traffic engineer. Let me tell you the way we address that. The idea is that we don't have one lane coming out of the site. We have a multiple lanes. So we have actually this leg of the driveway, the extension the signal rather, coming into the driveway on the south side. We have that being one, a northbound to westbound left turn lane coming out for one exit lane, and the other is a second exit lane, which is going to be for the through traffic that we may want to go over to Bridgehampton Commons, and the people making a right turn out to go eastbound onto it. So by having this multi-lane approach, it doesn't call for the signal to pull into it. In fact, the majority of the concern for the signal is the traffic, the higher amount of traffic coming out of Bridgehampton Commons. So it turns out to be not a major problem. The problem is resolved by increasing the capacity of the intersection. And that means we add a lane so that you can have several movements happening at the same time.
Would it be so bad to have westbound traffic, provide for westbound, for eastbound traffic directly out of this site? So eastbound out, and you only need to get to the signal if you've got to go to westbound.
So they don't activate the signal. Right, eastbound would not
Eastbound,
activate the signal.
correct. It would exit this site, just widen it, it's like in, out, what do they call that wedge? Channelized. And then with directional signage like we do across the street. We have, if you want a 27 west, you'll be directed to go down this access road. That would address some of your
But
problems.
if you go west here, you're stopping the westbound traffic. I mean,
If
to
you're
get
gonna,
in.
only if you're gonna go west. If you're gonna go east, Tom's concern
The way we could do that then is, and this could come up as a result of the state's review. So I didn't want to stop them from reviewing the traffic impact study because I think it would be helpful for the board in making a determination that we need to have another consultant come in. My professional feeling is that we don't need it. But if we look at the concerns and make sure we're addressing, so the possibility what they're saying here is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that instead of making this just an entrance only for eastbound traffic to come into the site, all right, we have it so it's a two-way, but only to permit right turns out and restrict left turns out.
Right.
Now that's not a bad thought, because what does it do? It actually, I'll show you as part of the site layout here, is what's missing from here is some signage. And I went over this detail, and Amanda and I had a number of discussions on this to make sure that we were handling it right.
But Walter, can I just interrupt you for a second? I live in Bridgehampton. I pass this site many times during the day. And it's very apparent that people going west will turn into this road, will turn into this site, thereby stopping traffic and highly dangerous. And even if you have directions, it's not to say that people are not going to do it. There's no traffic cop who's going to give them a ticket.
Well, there are enforceable things that can be done. It's like trying to put an enforcement for no turns on the County Road 39.
Take a picture and
keep the radius.
So you just to clarify in my own mind, you can come out of a private driveway and make a left across a double yellow. That is legal. You're saying it's not legal to go over those stripes.
Well, it's not safe. Let's put it that way. All right.
That we
Whether
know.
it's completely legal or not, but it's. I wouldn't want to make that move.
I see people make it all the time when the light's red.
Yeah.
And what is that? It happens because if somebody sees somebody else coming out there, they tend to be more compatible or friendly and let the people come out.
Right.
We talked about this at Snake Hollow Road, if you remember, when we came in a few years back for the TJ Maxx going in. And in fact, I never had a chance to thank you for getting the information on the inside accidents on the parking lot.
Oh, yes.
So that was very helpful on the health.
That's right. That's right.
I mean,
Now, so you're making, I think, as we talked this through, you may be making me feel a little better about that signal, activating for one vehicle, and slowing the traffic. I think what you may have said is it's really going to be the traffic coming out of Bridgehampton Commons.
Right. That's the point I was
that is
going to
gonna
make.
be
The that signal is being activated by the Commons already.
Because of the higher volume coming out of the Commons.
And Bridgehampton Commons
is there an M&D bank in there too? I didn't know.
And as long as
that's right. She's worked there once.
As long as we work with the DOT, and we've kind of had this understanding with DPW and the DOT, I think, for a lot of years, make the folks coming out wait as long as they can to activate the signal.
Right.
You know, that's, and as I said, that's kind of been the understanding with DOT and DPW on all the side streets. I hope they still stick to that.
They do that, Tom, when I come out to go back onto 27, when I come around the back of, I'm there for a couple of minutes.
I think it's 4 minutes is, I think, the maximum that they can hold.
I'm there
or
for a
something
couple of
like that.
minutes, it's not instant, I'm waiting.
I remember 255 seconds, I think I was told.
I'm gonna count the next time.
Which is 4.5 minutes,
But,
I was
I
told
mean-
that's the maximum they can hold a vehicle.
4 minutes and a bit.
But I do think that if you're going east, in, and then out through the signal, I think makes a very clean site.
If you're going west, what about having in and out
East.
from?
I just see it as in.
If I can just have clarification, I'm trying to look at this picture
That's showing the existing site, correct?
and,
then we jump ahead to.
yes,
the other
and
things here.
this, where is the property line for the Carvel? Are we now with this,
With this
then
one here,
using some of the additional Connor property that's not
Yes.
part?
That comes to the next point. That's actually a site plan or a site layout that shows there's only one entrance into it now. And it shows that if you look at on that.
Yeah, but
let's
just-
go to that one just so it's easier for you. So essentially, you'll see at the end here a line. So this shows where the signal is, where it comes back and hooks onto 27.
Two ways in here.
Yeah.
Right, and the property line is here. So there's.
I can't see that, you gotta
property
turn.
line is here.
So Gloria, and there's an easement, isn't this an easement over your property, this road?
Yes, but that's my question is, if
It's an
this is the entrance and exit, what's gonna happen when this property gets developed?
Well, that's up to the owner.
But can we,
You call it segmenting it?
and can we approve a plan that we think is helping the traffic, but
But
then-
may mess up the development?
and
I
then
don't
we're
know,
gonna
that-
come back and ask to,
Yeah.
to
I had
scrap
asked
that.
That's a good point, but what happens in reality is, whatever we're doing here would have to be part of the development of
Yeah.
that site.
Of the site.
You're going to execute an agreement that'll run with the land.
It's almost going in phase development, I guess. is the easy
Well,
way
would
to
it
look
be
at it.
a covenant?
Yes, a
Cross-access-
covenant.
Cross-access covenant.
Yeah.
And there would have to be an access management plan
Mhm.
that was signed by Greg,
Right.
showing that, for the adjacent property, he's allowing this to come through
Right.
as part of this access management.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was actually reading this right.
You are, sometimes it's confusing because, engineers would always like to see the north arrow going north, in this case, it's going south.
If Jackie's opposed to having westbound traffic here, is there a way to
Turn
to
in.
have westbound traffic sort of curve around so it doesn't trip the light? So in other words, put a little concrete island there where westbound traffic has maybe a stop sign.
I think it's
If you're
westbound is where
channeling all
you
the
need that
traffic-
light.
You mean
If you're
eastbound?
channeling all the traffic here, is there a way to have maybe concrete islands so, and a little bit of a radius so westbound traffic doesn't trip that
Well,
light?
westbound has to.
I'm sorry, eastbound
cross the-
traffic.
Right,
Eastbound traffic would not trip that, and only westbound traffic would queue up and trip that light.
Well, and,
Again, we're not talking a lot of traffic here.
Right.
First, it's not additional traffic.
But
and
we
I
don't
think
know
that depends on how you put the sensors in the
Sensors.
ground.
Yeah,
If you don't put one in the right turn lane,
Right.
You would put one in, the state's gonna make you put one in every lane, which I'll show you.
Oh, really?
Even in the right turn lane?
In the right turn lane too, because,
Well, there's not gonna be a right turn lane, there's gonna be a straight through to.
They'll make you do
a
that?
straight
Why?
lane
That doesn't
that's
make
gonna
sense.
turn right
all
from.
right, I'm sorry, you're talking about coming out of the site?
Coming
Yeah, coming out of the
Yeah.
site.
It's gonna be in each lane, so
So you-
it's gonna measure each one.
Okay.
So, to make sure that.
so if they're making a right, they're still gonna have
And the
to.
significant part about it is, we also did detailed intersection capacity analysis on the computer, and it showed that the level of service would be B in the PM and B on the Saturday, all right, for existing conditions now. And when we add this in, it still remains B. So it's a concern, but it's not a big concern, and we have the ways to overcome it. One is adjusting the signal timing, and in fact, one of the expensive parts of this that I've been talking to Greg about, by putting in this fourth leg for the intersection, we're essentially going to have to rebuild that signal.
Yeah.
And the requirement that they have now use what we call myovision. Myovision is a video approach, and we use that video approach to count the data.
To count the cars, right?
Yeah, count cars. So now that's going to be used as part of the detectors on probably the complete intersection, signalized intersection. So this is using, I guess, the most progressive and up-to-date technological.
That's actually being implemented. I remember reading about it and
I
didn't think the
last one I
DOT or
saw-
DPW had.
Yeah, I think the last one that I saw somebody design was in Islandia.
Okay.
So for New Zealand.
So the bulk of the traffic coming to this signal is coming out of the commons. And,
I mean, you're basically channeled to that signal.
Yes.
To go
Coming
east.
out and going in. Correct.
Okay, so what's, is
Okay.
this the site plan, or is this, we're
Well,
just going
all right,
over
let's go-
traffic?
And then let's go, I jumped ahead, and I'm happy to go back.
Go, we have a couple.
we have the
oh,
hearings that we gotta come
We,
to.
uh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me go fast then, all right? Okay. So what I showed here is essentially, what are the proposed modifications we have? One, we have to put what I call an eastbound to southbound right turn lane, so we'll go into the proposed access driveway right in front of the site. Whether we add a left turn, a right turn out permitted there, it may be. And I said the state may come back with that saying, hey, maybe it's better for internal circulation. And we listen to them, we come back and tell you. We're, point I'd like to make here is that we're a couple weeks away. I thought I was gonna have an answer to walk in here and say, hey, here it is. Nothing that would make me happy to come back to you and do that. But I'd say we're at the most a couple weeks away, you know? So I mean, before you make a decision, I would suggest that, or I actually recommend to you, don't make your decision on hiring another firm. Let's see what the state has. We're gonna get that for free from them. And we're gonna have to address all the comments. And as part of it, we'd have to put in, we're filling out an application for a work permit, highway work permit, to do the roadway modification. So the first one is via pavement markings. I believe that the shoulder of the road has been resurfaced a number of times since we put the signal in initially. You know? And that means you have a full depth shoulder, all right? Which means we may not have to redo the construction of the shoulder completely, because the depth is sufficient and the same as a lane, all right? So that means we can just put down pavement markings, and whether it's pavement markings or a new type of system that they're thinking about, it means we put that stripe just to the west of the site. We would start and put the striping for a right turn lane in there, all right? Then what we have to do is we're going to have to stripe for the coming westbound. We're gonna have to make a left turn lane to go into this signalized driveway. So that's gonna be by pavement markings there. And if we look at figure 2, we see that that can be done by redoing, taking out the striping that has the yellow lines in here, the median, and we're gonna have to scrape that off and put in a new left turn lane. We might add I think there's enough to get another foot in that one to make it safe for operation too. So that's the second striping we have to do. And I think that's the major ones we have there.
And you don't have to move the bus shelter?
Yes,
Or
we have to move.
you will have to move the bus
because
shelter.
that's right in the middle of that driveway.
A little
So,
square right
yeah,
by the
that's
driveway.
the point
So
that-
you've moved it
Yeah,
in
quickly,
this.
that was part of our pedestrian circulation improvements and the particular on-site circulation improvements that we proposed, all right? So I think we covered all your concerns for this, right? And the big thing, when you look at it, who's gonna be paying for it? Who's gonna pay for the design? In the area. Where do you go?
The guy behind it.
There he is. Right, right?
You know, if I was gonna suggest something based on this conversation, that if there's more info coming from
We
the
should wait.
Department of State, the DOT,
Let's
I'm
wait.
sorry, I like to see it,
Mhm.
because they have their engineers working on it, and I don't mind not suggesting a traffic consultant until if you get good information.
I'd like to
from it.
read what we got.
100%.
Again.
What's fair is fair. So that's what I would suggest then. Let's just adjourn this then. Not even adjourn. We don't have to do anything. And just when you have the information, additional information, submit it. We'll come back to the planning board. Let's do
Sounds
that.
fair.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
great.
think that's fair.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Like I say, you always inspire me when I come here.
Good.
Apologize for the wait, Walter.
I
You guys
know.
are sitting
If
back
I may
there.
ask one thing, sorry. So, the DOT's gonna come back with whatever suggestions or not that they're gonna have. What issues did you have, short of the DOT, that maybe we can address in 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, I see, I mean, from
I
that
don't-
plan, I think there was some
Yeah,
buffering.
I can address
I mean, don't, because I think we can do it as part of the process, but
Yeah.
for example, I don't like,
Little-
the parking in front of the building. I
No.
know we have a building on the road, but I'd rather see the parking
In the back.
to the back, or at least behind the building.
Yep.
You don't want the handicap parking spaces closest to the entrance or exit
No.
actually either. So there's, that, but I haven't done a full review yet, so.
I just, again, I was hoping to maybe get some information so that we came back in whatever many weeks, that there'd be more complete for you. That's all.
Just robust foliage, buffer in the front,
Oh,
trees.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff is,
Street
we have a
trees.
landscaping plan if we want more than one of the
Right.
conditions when we get
Yeah.
to that
Well,
point,
we
say
haven't
add
re-
10 trees
Yeah,
or,
we haven't looked at
You
it.
have the in-house
Yeah, there's a
capability to do all those reviews. You don't have to go
Yeah.
to outside agencies.
Yeah.
No, not for that, but I do want to get this additional information so I could get to everybody.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good job, Anthony.
George, could you send the goodies back down my way?
$5.
$5. Wait a minute, it's not going back anywhere until I have a cursory golf.
We have coffee beans as well, Keith.
Coffee beans.
Give you,
Give
you a boost
Thanks,
now.
Walter.
Happy Halloween.
Safe.
These are
Good to
peanuts.
see you, Walter.
And just so the board knows, you can do this while you're looking. Jane Frick will be an extension for speaker until November 14th.
An extension?
11/14.
Claire, just so you know, Claire and I met with the applicant and everything and the team, and I needed them to tweak that map to get it to a point.
Motion. Is that Jane Fritz?
Jane Frick, the extension until November 14th.
Motion by
Motion.
Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, extension, 6 in favor.
I was too busy trying to find something to eat. But
Revenge. Love those revenges.
So we're looking at,
Best for last. Deer Ridge Trail. site
number
disturbance.
number 18, Deer Ridge, lot 24.
32 Deer Ridge Trail is before you. It was, an application was filed on 8/14/2022. It's been around for a bit. This is zone CR 200. It is approximately 112,559 square feet, or 2.4 acres. Draft resolution for an acceptable revegetation plan. The parcel is allowed 25% clearing, and we have a revegetation plan in front of you for 3,000 square feet, which is the amount the site has gone over.
So what do you have a percentage of what they cleared? Just,
I do.
well, we could do the math.
Let me see, I have it in here. No, I don't have it right handy this second. I would have to do the math.
No, that's all right. Just I'm always curious as to how much.
Yeah, it's not by much.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, well,
mean,
let's go 84,
112.
84,000 there.
So this came before us because they put in a generator. They were cited with the building division. They came back with a revegetation plan with the pool equipment and the generator in the area that they were hoping to revegetate. I asked them to resubmit, taking out anything that had been put in the ground, as it might at some point be removed as well. So they removed those areas and have given us a nice revegetation plan that bulks up on an existing area of natural vegetation. We've got red maples, 5 of those, some black oaks, pitch pine, red oak, and then your usual shrubbery of high and low, blueberry, Pennsylvania sedge, and
Actually, if I
shad
put
bush.
my glasses on, it helps.
So, I would propose to you that it will bring this parcel into compliance with 330-67A,
Is this a 50%?
25% clearing.
Okay, is this in Northside Hills?
It is part of Deer Ridge, in North Sea.
Yeah.
Deer Ridge subdivision. Yeah, it's off, I'm sorry, I should pull
It's
it
off
up on the
Watermill
map.
Town.
Watermill
Oh,
Town.
okay, all right.
It's North Sea.
Yeah.
Or Gray Hill Road, Watermill Town.
Okay.
Okay,
Would you like me to pull them up?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, we're good.
any questions? Okay. Okay,
A
motion to
motion.
approve.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And then you've got Gerald Lynch, lot 1.
Yes. Okay. Halfway here, quick. So this is 532 Blank Lane. Part of the minor subdivision. This is lot 1. And yeah, so it is in the CR 80 zone. It is approximately 64,788 square feet, the bulk of which is 62,268 square feet. In this case, it is a 35% clearing and 21,793 is allowed. This site was significantly cleared. They had 26,387 square feet needed to be revegetated on this site. You may notice the clearing went over into the northern property to the north, so we've had them revegetate that as well, or they have submitted to revegetating that. That's an additional 2,000 square feet. So there is a 28,000 and change of revegetation occurring. So the 26,387 is in the actual parcel, and the 2,052 is outside to the north.
So what triggered this application?
This was a rental. This was a rental permit, and I guess code enforcement noticed that it was significantly clear.
So the application for rental permit was triggered there?
Yes, yes.
Well,
It's interesting.
the town goes to check, so
That's good.
when they get to your house, look out.
Yeah, that was a big one. So at any rate, this survey has been used as a revegetation plan, and it is basically the conditions show that they're going to follow the dimensional regulations of plantings of trees and of planting shrubs and grasses. They have a significant count of 128 red maples. I mean, there's a lot of trees being put in, a lot of red oaks, mountain laurels, blueberry. And the grass will be removed. The fencing will be reduced to 6 feet. And a variable assemblage of characteristic native species found in the surrounding native ecosystem will be used. So it fits the requirements for passing this revegetation plan, I would submit.
Yes, that's 2 years rental income down the line. Maybe.
Any questions?
Maybe more, maybe more.
Okay, motion to approve.
Motion.
By Gloria and second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
6 in favor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Great work, everyone, today.
Thank you.
Okay, we have acknowledgement here of signatures on 20, the East Quogue Mobile Home Park.
I have not signed those
Oh, you
yet, but
haven't?
I will be
That's for
doing
you?
those between now and 6 o'clock.
Okay, but in anticipation, and the Puccio.
Gucci has been signed.
Okay, Puccio Laundry sign.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
Settled there.
Motion to adjourn?
Acknowledge both, yeah. Motion to adjourn by Dennis.
Second.
Second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. We are adjourned, returning at 6 p.m.
My car.
You want extra